That was weird. There we go. This seems like a busy week, but this is only the third stream of the week, Anna. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but
Hey,
the tabletop role-playing game world is busy
Yeah.
right now, so yeah.
I guess so.
Yep.
Thanks, man. Palmoko, hey, do what you gotta do, man. Birthday dinner for daughter. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patrick. 30 months. Woohoo! Hey, Mystical. Wow. 20 was such a tough age. I remember that because it was like, you can't drink yet. Hey, Dirty Dwarf. Good, because we're going to talk some. We're going to talk some when it ties into what I do. No, Prelude's on at 6:45, always 15 minutes early for the Preludes. We're dead on tonight. Good to see a long shot. Getting through. Steven will be on shortly. We're just waiting for him, but we got Preludes coming on anyway, so we're all good, right? Everyone's doing well out there. So I know some of us have an extra day off. Hey, Sparky, some of us have an extra day off. Some of us don't. You know, it's one of those. I think this is only the third time that my company's actually given off. Third time in a row, though, given off Martin Luther King Day. All right, wrong button time. Right, let's see what we got here. I got you. I play in my basement, Dirty Dwarf. That's my basement I play in on Thursday nights. That big space. Yeah. It runs the entire length of my house. So, we got very fortunate when we moved in here in 2013. In fact, you know, it was one of the reasons I wanted this place. What's up, Doc? Thanks. Here he comes. Dun dun dun.
Hey.
Hey, Steven, you're just in time to see your ad you've seen 100 times.
Is it the Christmas thing?
Well, yeah, I don't have anything else right now.
Christmas all the time. Yeah.
It's Christmas forever. Controller land.
Video that keeps on giving.
Yep.
Chuck, I just talked to Chuck and he said he'll be working on the World of Air one shortly. How that? So, yes. Now look at that.
What are people upset about?
Same thing that we're upset about yesterday. I don't think it has changed that much, to be honest.
Hey, darling.
Seems to go at a rapid pace sometimes.
Oh yeah, the pace is really rapid. Oh yeah, it's really rapid. But I think it's the current thing they're angry at is probably going to last for another week or so. Yeah, at least.
What button?
Yeah.
What button? What button? This one.
Yeah.
Keep the feeds
But
filled.
it fades as fast as it comes, and a lot of it. So yeah.
It's really funny.
Yep.
I mean, it's tragic, whatever, but it's...
Yeah, but you have to see the funny side of it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying my best, so to speak. And actually, I can when I play Western Coast Bingo, that Woodsy Bingo, then I see the beauty of it. Yep.
You know, I now know when I was young, I remember back in the 80s, I would go to this mall to eat with a buddy of mine, and there would always be these older people in their 60s and 70s. They all just sat there, and they didn't say much, didn't do anything. I now know why.
Now we are the old folks sitting there not saying much, but yes.
It's not going to do any good.
Yep.
I just opened Twitter and someone was yelling about a moral clause. I'm not sure what. I don't know what he's referencing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So almost sounds religious, so stay out of it. Yep.
Yeah. Nothing much.
It appears my Stream Deck once again is not doing shout outs. Joyous. That's great.
See, there's enough things screaming in
So
the world
many
right
things
now.
like you got to reauthorize over and over and over now. It's getting frustrating. You know, it's just so nuts that now, you know, so my auto shout outs, now I'm trying to figure out how I reauthorized it, relinked it in.
You said deauthorize, authorize. Those words are tainted these days.
I
so
know,
don't use
so
them. Don't use them.
crazy.
Yeah. They're scary. Yep.
It's almost getting to the point that the convenience of the internet is being lost with the inconvenience of constantly having to do stuff.
yeah.
To authorize things.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah. The convenience you have that you have to filter everything, and that kind of adds
Right.
to the burden. So yeah.
I renewed the CNC trademark the other day, and just pre-COVID, and it's changed in COVID, I found out, but pre-COVID, you just went on to the U.S. Patent Office. I have an account. You download a disclosure form, you fill it out, you send it in, you're done. And you don't have to do it again for 3 years or whatever. Well, now they don't want to do that because of fraud, so you have to do this. I had to do a 2-point authentication to get into my account.
Yeah.
Then I had to do a
Come on,
3-point authentication through this ID card thing, IDP or something. And I thought, after working with this for an hour, I thought, can I just mail this in? Can I just
Yep.
mail it?
You have to go there in person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, we about to start. real quick, Pete got something gummed up in his bank, and he spent 30 minutes on the phone with him. So we got in the car and we drove down, and within a minute and a half, they had it.
Oh yeah. That works for county, maybe state things, but not for federal things. Everybody should not have to go to Washington to fix things. So yeah.
I don't know that there's anyone to go talk to anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I may have to, but I just need to know, Casey hosting the show and doing all that's pretty, that's a lot. So, but I'll figure out how to get it authorized too. It's something it's because the check mark's coming on this. It's not communicating with the Twitch browser right now for some reason. So it's going through, but it's not like doing like if I do an exclamation point, I'm typing this in manually because I don't know these all by heart. Like if I do shout out, I don't even know if it's troll. Lord, let me just see if this is one. If I do that, see that's not even a correct one there. So hey Heather, so that's not even a correct. So that's just it. I got so many in Streamlabs, so it's all right. We'll get through it. Everything else is working. Chuck broke it. I always blame Chuck. Yes. All right, tonight on our nice little chat, we have very special guest Stephen Chenault. Chuck's under the weather, so Chuck will not be on. Or he may be last second, we never know. Chuck. But Stephen's on with that in me. See, look, I can't even shout out the Slav Squad game on the 28th now.
Why not?
Hey, this was working like 15 minutes ago. That's freaking crazy.
Yep.
Super
You
crazy.
have to check its license. That's very important these days. Yeah.
According to this, it looks like it's still authorized. That's what's weird. I can't listen to this radio right before we go live. I redid it. I reauthorized it. See if that worked there. And we'll come on here. It did. Ha ha! I tricked it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a wonderful, wonderful discussion tonight. We have the legendary Stephen Chenault, Troller Games, is joining us tonight. Thank you so very much for coming on, Stephen. And with me, of course, is always Anna B. Meyer. So good to see everyone tonight. I see a lot of new people. Thanks. Thank you for coming on. I see a lot of new people.
Yeah.
Plus, I've seen a lot. I mean, we literally got like 3 to 4 followers within the last 30 minutes. And I'm assuming a lot of you are coming over from the Troller Games or Crusades and Crusades Facebook page or their Discord. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate that. And our march to 10,000 followers. We just finished across 9,500 for Twitch. What a ride that's been for 5 years, huh, Stephen? My gosh. So
No kidding.
But tonight, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, that's the understatement.
An understatement a thousand times. There's been a lot going on. I know these OGL questions are going to come up, but I wanted Anna and I have been doing Greyhawk campaign development for like the last 2 months, most of it with adventures. But I thought we'd change it up tonight and talk about like character classes and things you can add in to a Greyhawk campaign. I got some great ideas, and I was talking to Stephen about this. Stephen, tell everyone what you said about the like not switching systems, but like me playing and piecemealing. You know.
So I'm an old AD&D hound. I started playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when it came out. You know, I started back in 75, 76, but when AD&D came out, I switched it, and I never turned back until Castles and Crusades came out in 04, 05, 06. And I really played, even after CNC came out, I played AD&D for about a year and a half until Davis and Mac, who designed the game, kind of rebelled at my AD&D table and said, we're going to switch to CNC or we're going to quit. It was really funny. So one of the philosophies that went into Castles and Crusades was the idea that I had to be able to kind of morph into it really easily at the table. And the thinking was, if I can do it, then all the other AD&D players can do it. And AD&D it's a very different animal. It's the same, but it's a very different animal than 3.0 or 5.0 or 4.0 or whatever. So when we built CNC, it was built with this malleability, mechanism built into it. So you can just do anything. You can we didn't have a monster book for the first year. There were some problems getting it out. So we just sent people to the AD&D Monsters and Monster Manual, because you can it's that easy to bleed over. So if you're playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or any version of that, you can easily take CNC material and kind of reverse engineer it into AD&D as easily as you can kind of do it out. And I think you were looking at, I can't remember which class you were looking at. Was it the Rune Mark? I can't remember which one.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of a couple I really like. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really, once you kind of shift over, because it's an attribute check system, and AD&D had an attribute check system, it's a little bit different. It just switches right into it. So it kind of, any system you're going in any direction. Fourth edition, I'm very unfamiliar with fourth edition, so I don't know if it would play into that game. Yeah, I just don't know. I know that it was more war game-ish than some of the other editions, and that's as far as I can get. But for the other ones, certainly AD&D and 5e, you can switch. You can go back and forth. So in your Greyhawk campaign, Jay, you shouldn't have any problem melding these classes into it.
That's awesome, and that's what I like to do. And we got to start somewhere. Well, I wanted to hear what Anna said she's going to play a CNC game in the upcoming at some point.
I'm thinking about it. It's one of my top contenders, and today I've been writing an article about choosing my next game system. And these days I think then there's other factors apart from the rules, meaning licensing and stuff like that too. That doesn't matter if you just running for your home games. You just pick the best one you have on your shelf if you play it as long as we have, and just run with it, meaning it doesn't matter. You pick the one you have and go. But if you're a creator and you want to create and share stuff and so on, then that becomes an issue as well. So that's part of why I have to take that in consideration. And then I have a bunch of other criteria I'm going to list, and then list the top contenders, and then ask all my patrons and others to chime in and tell me what it is. But CNC is definitely one of the top contenders, along with Pathfinder 2 and Level Up. And so we'll see which one, because there's different, they have different strengths and weaknesses, and some of my requirements are not contrary, but they're kind of a little bit odd, because I run a very different play style from a lot of exploration, world building and stuff like that built in, that requires other things, sides to a rule system. So but it's interesting. And I try to emphasize things that people normally don't think about. The combat system is essential, but I want a lot of support structure for me as a game master when I'm planning my sessions and stuff. I want things to guide me in prep and stuff like that. And some DMs or GMs, when they run and prep, they're not interested in those things, so you can just skip them. They just want a simple, straightforward thing for conflict resolution and stuff and meaning we run old school with a lot of GM fiat. It's very much a back and forth between the GM and the players to come up with, the GM is supposed to come up with cool obstacles and interesting obstacles that the players are supposed to circumvent and stuff, and then it becomes more of the rule system needs to facilitate the conditions where that can happen in, so to speak, and the conflict resolution is really important. But for my play style, that is much more exploration in general. It's much more co-op between the players and me. So I want a rule system that can surprise me too with the outcome, and much less about the facilitating of limiting the options. I want it to detail and have a lot lot of options rather than that. And those are different requirements. But on the other hand, every rule system is malleable, and I need to tweak it a little bit, whatever rule system I'm choosing. So tweakability is another one that is, can I plug in and out like a magic system that works slightly different without screwing up the whole mechanics? But now I've gone on way too long answering that.
No, this is no, and of course, no.
Yeah.
You're not the babble on.
Yeah.
But we had Eric Mone on last week. We couldn't get a word in edgewise, you or me. So
yeah,
right, you know. So it's
so those are my criteria.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So I think every GM should kind of start thinking, what do I need? What do my players need for my play style? And if you come from old school and AD&D, Castle and Crusades, I think, is a given these days. For one, if you want to evolve that a little bit and simplify, especially if you want players who have played a 5e, one of the modern, to come into your more old school play style, so to speak, then I think that's the sweet spot where CNC is designed to fall into. Am I wrong?
No, that's one of the ways I've played forever. So I didn't buy a lot of stuff, but Davis certainly did. That's my brother. He bought just about any kind of role-playing game you could imagine. I've got boxes of these things that date back to the 70s. I mean, just all kinds. And they're just RPGs that were put together, and when it was really crazy popular back in the early 80s, late 70s. And I would borrow and steal stuff and put it in my AD&D game constantly.
Yep.
So being able to do that, and it's exactly what you're talking about, because so many DMs, GMs, and CKs, as soon as you've got a year, 2, maybe 3 years, depending on your comfort level under your belt, you start looking at the game you're playing, and you're like, well, that's not the right, and you start changing it. And that's one of the things that we designed into CNC, is so that you can change it without breaking anything else, and you still got your underlying, your undercurrent.
Yeah.
But you're spot on, because that's the way I've gamed forever. To this day, even with Castles and Crusades, the Palladium, what is it? Palladium Arms and Armor book. I can't remember what it's called. It's Arms and Weapons. Whatever. That blue book with the 9.
Oh yes, the big. I have it here somewhere. Yep.
Yep. I use it almost every game.
Yeah. I have it here.
Arms. Grindelwolf says Arms and Weapons. It's a fantastic
I have it here.
book. Absolutely.
I even bought it as PDF. There's available PDF from Drive-Thru RPG. I bought it in PDF, so I have it digital to read as well. It's a masterpiece when it comes to a lot of cool stuff that comes in with illustrations and descriptions and stuff, from castle design to weapons.
So
and that's the key to a lot of this stuff. Soon as, and I think this is with that OGL stuff, I think this is what 5th edition is running into. Their players have learned, their DMs who have been now playing for 5 years have kind of learned to do it themselves, so they don't really need to go shopping for stuff. It's a challenge.
And every good DM, I'm not trying to put people in categories. There are rules you just don't like, and you make all right. I'll give you an example. First edition. Who the hell of us used weapon versus armor class type of armor to hit modifiers? I mean, it's so the game.
I think I tried it for a week, and then the players rebelled, and same thing with speed factor. They kind of went crazy too. Yeah.
The only thing I used in that, if I recall, and this may be something different in AD&D, I can't remember where I got this.
Yep, exactly.
If you were using a dagger against a 2-handed weapon, I let them swing twice, or there was something now. I can't remember what it was.
Yep.
Was that the speed factor? Is that what that was?
Yeah, weapon speed
exactly.
factor.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's the Tim rule.
Initiative. Yeah.
That's
you
the
added that to
mysterious Tim rule.
initiative, and the dagger, he could attack like 4 times before, and then becomes the big woodcutter at the end swinging. So it was crazy for a bit.
So here's the big.
That was too complicated.
Yeah, it just gets to the point where you're like, why? And here's my why moment with classes. Honor Arcana comes out. I'm waiting for it. And here's the book. This one's falling apart. But we go to page 8 and 9, and my head wants to explode on this level limits for races pages. Okay, and I'm like, oh, you need to have a 21 in a stat in your wisdom so that you can become a dwarf cleric of 16th level instead of 3rd. I'm like, what? Then it's going to be a stat race. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And that's when I said, that's it. you know what? We're going to figure out another way to make single class characters more beneficial than multi-class characters, and we're limiting class level limits. And that was that. So that was something that we got. No, not a class like an assassin or a bard. They have the limit themselves for the class, but based on race, we got rid of that in like the early '80s. And that's just an example, you know.
Wasn't the dwarf fighter you could only go to 8th level or some craziness?
Yeah, which makes no sense, especially if you think of like Lord of the Rings style. Here, dwarf fighter. No, if you have a 15, a mountain dwarf 7th.
Well,
I know it's ridiculous, but you can be unlimited in thief. It's just some of the stuff, and it didn't make sense, Steven. And I'm like, this is going to hurt our game a lot, so we eliminated it completely.
Yeah, we caught that.
And from that point, now I get beat up a ton because I don't allow halflings to be wizards, and I don't allow dwarves to be magic users still, but they can be clerics and other classes. We still do that, and so here I want to show you this. This is my master list. I got 2 of them here. Yeah, I know.
I allow it, Jay, but I do it reluctantly.
Here we go. Here is my master list for all my classes, race cross-reference, 40-some plus classes, and that doesn't include like specialty priests. Well, I have 42 specialty priests within this, right? Everyone's basically almost its own different class. And here's the list, and every so often someone comes up with an idea, and we'll add it and we'll utilize it in our game. So it's a never-breathing 1E2E game. Everything's back into the 1E2E rules. The latest one is Alan came up with the idea of the Greyhawk Mage, where you are using name spells, tensor spells, Nistal spells, and we know it's successful because Ed Greenwood plays one and he loves it. So right, he's playing Ravalanter, Ottaluke. So look, we have the Timothy Brannan's Witch we use from first edition. And these little squiggly marks, these tildes, they mean you got to get special permission from me before you do it. So we're throwing around assassins running all over the place. So from this, I figured, hey, let's strike while the iron's hot. Let's take a look through the Castles and Crusades classes and see if there's anything that makes sense, especially if we got our Altamira stuff coming out at the end of the year or whenever the Kickstarter starts. Right.
We're going to zero that in soon.
Yes. So, and that was my idea here. And from this one also, Casey Brown helped me out with this one, sourcing. Of course, it went to don't you hate that when you got something else open and it goes to the wrong, you open it up, it's like, oh, all right, here we go. Here's the list here with all the sources of where they are. Drag it like, you got your duelists. And I saw you have a duelist too, which is pretty interesting. The role, multi-class capability and all, and this is another master list just in a different form. So why is there no shaman on that list? That's a good question, Troy, because shaman's kind of a malleable class, and it's not a class to me. I use shamans a lot for humanoids.
That's why I never put shamans in, and there's no shaman in the CNC player classes because I always associate them with orcs, gnolls, whoever, just the humanoids. That's where the shamans land for me.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll give you an example. I had an orc shaman Thursday night, this is why I don't like tying that down. I can make them whatever I want. I put quasi-elementalist lightning spells in with clerical spells and mix them. Yeah. Right, and that's what I did. Yeah. So,
can I ask you a question about this?
Please.
Are classes for both of you? Do you use classes only for players for their characters, or are classes something that you use in order to construct, create NPCs and stuff like that too?
NPCs.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, both.
I'll say this: I definitely do that. I use classes for NPCs, but I will frequently hybrid. Yeah, I can't remember all the abilities, so I'll frequently hybrid their abilities. And I'm not constrained by the class as much. Yeah. And I know for like the shamans, I don't restrict them to spell. They use whatever spell comes to my mind. Mm-hmm. They don't need to be leveled or anything.
That seems to be the modern idea of doing monsters that way. Both 5e and Pathfinder 2 and stuff have it. In the third era, monsters were supposed to follow exactly the same rules as characters, and you had levels and so on and so forth. They were supposed to follow this. There were even this, you can level up monsters, adding class levels and stuff, and that led to kind of intricate but kind of cool in a way, but a lot of difficult. Now you're just supposed to come up with cool stuff with it. So yeah.
My issue with doing that, and we specifically in Castles and Crusades did not give monsters attributes. They have mental and physical attributes only. They don't have like strength and dexterity listed down. Because I run games fairly fast, I don't want to spend a lot of time putting monsters together. If it's an NPC, you know, if it's a ranger they're going to meet, I'll hybrid it in my head, or maybe even make some notes down to it. And it may be a dwarf, you know, whatever, or an elf or whatever. And it's someone that's kind of interacting. And once in a blue moon, I'll give a humanoid like class abilities, but not necessarily the class. But monsters, I pretty much, I don't use them right out of the book, but I use them right out of the book in just the kind of the conception of them. I might give them some extra abilities or take some away. But monsters, I don't class up. I do appreciate, that's sort of a third edition, right? And that kind of, making the monsters more like the player characters, which I appreciate the approach, but there's so much work that goes into it.
Yeah.
At high level, particularly, it gets it gets dicey.
So Styler, Styler just asked a question. I'm going to diverge real quick. Styler goes, "Does Stephen said where monks and assassins belong?" Well, surprise, surprise, they're both in this book. We can show them to you. They're both in this book. Oh, by the way. Gratitude for Stephen and Chuck. 7 giveaways, 2 $25 gift certificates, 5 $10 digitals. Exclamation point drawing. We'll do them at the end, okay? Yeah. So a lot of you will get some stuff from Troller Games.
Yeah, I think what Statler's alluding to is I'm not a fan of the assassin and the monk, and I've worked very hard to kind of sideline, particularly the assassin. We didn't pull it out of the player's handbook, but I put it in the back of the classes. It's buried in the middle of the book. It's in the back of the classes, kind of as an optional class.
Which is perfectly fine, Stephen. Because I gave you my bounty hunter, which is I made that class when I was like 15 years old, because we want the assassin is evil, right? And we didn't want to play evil back then. But the bounty hunter, hey, you want to capture someone and bring them back. You know, someone who's wanted. Right. You can knock them out, render them unconscious instead of outright kill them, and that's kind of the difference that we came up with.
Bounty hunters don't really have that. I mean, an assassin has a negative connotation about it, and a bounty hunter doesn't. They can be rough, rough around the edges, what have you. But generally, I think bounty hunters are conceived as good people. Generally.
Or for hire, right? Either or.
Was Guido? No, Guido. Who's the guy who shot Han Solo? Who's
Guido? Guido. Yeah, they're all bounty hunters.
So he was a bounty hunter. Okay, so it's been so long since I saw A New Hope. I need to rewatch that movie.
Boba Fett's a bounty hunter.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, yes, Boba Fett. Yeah, the other is Lando Calrissian.
No, Greedo's the one he kills. He kills him sitting at the bar. He's sitting him at the table. He's another bounty hunter. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm exposing my
Boba Fett was the coolest. Yeah, he was the coolest character in the whole movies, I thought. When I saw it first, he was like, oh, he looks cool.
Absolutely.
And then he was he just died and fell in there, and it was like in the third movie, and I was like, damn, he's gone.
Yeah, but then now he comes back, if you saw his series.
I know. But that was like 30 years later or something, so yeah.
I was about to bash R.A. Salvatore. I was going to say, it's just like an R.A. Salvatore novel. No one ever really dies in anything. Yeah, how many times does Artemis Entreri come back? Sorry, everyone out there. It's a great character. I'm just having a little fun here. So, with that, we have a Classes and Races book, right?
Excellent.
Okay, and with that, I didn't bring them all down. Specialty Priests. This is only PC ones. The NPC ones, like the I Use Nerol, the Viator ones, are not in this book. Okay, they're in a separate book. Elementalists, all 6.
Oh wow.
All 6 elementalists: air, earth, fire, water, quasi, which is lightning, radiance, and magnetism, and then para, which is all the mixed up crap in between, salt, smoke, right? All that stuff you can get. This is the wonders of this. And then this is one of my favorites, one of my oldest I don't think you have this class either. I think we need to put this in Altamir too. Necromancer.
Oh yeah. So a necromancer is somewhere. I think it's in the Haunted Highlands. It was in a
Oh, cool.
book of something or the other, but it's no. You definitely should write a necromancer for Altamira. Definitely do that. I think Altamira having 3 or 4 of its own classes, the bounty hunter, which I looked over today, looks just badass.
Okay,
I think
cool.
those classes would be very, very cool.
Bounty hunter. I got the 4. Bounty hunter, which is a shadow mage. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Necromancer, and then a subclass of paladin, undead hunter.
Oh, very cool.
I already have that 1E, and that actually got published in the Earth Journal. We can convert that to CNC real easily. So that's another one of mine. So those are the.
You know, it's funny about that undead hunter because I don't know what to put this. About 4 or 5 years ago, whenever Walking Dead season 2 came out, I started watching zombie movies. I never really cared for them before that, but I really been in a zombie thing for the past decade or so. And it hit me, and I could be wrong on this. Someone out there correct me if I am. But are there any settings, fantasy, D&D settings, CNC settings, whatever, where there's a zombie outbreak, where you're actually in the world
There is
of
one
zombies?
in even the Undying, that the one that was not published publicly. They just released the document on AOL or the early internet forums, and in the great north province of the Great Kingdom or North Kingdom, then there was in the city of Rinluru, there was some rebellious Neorul clerics who basically turned the whole city into zombies and skeletons. Yeah, and ran it, and they ran it as their own city state, so to speak, and kept everybody away. So but there's evil versus evil, because the ones trying to subdue it are Hextorians, and they're evil too. So it's kind of a but that's I think the biggest in Greyhawk lore of an undead outbreak, so to speak.
But it's kind of an interesting, as popular as it is, in movies and wherever. We don't see it. We see zombies in RPGs everywhere.
Oh yeah.
But we don't see a world swallowed up by zombies where my undead hunter or paladin or whoever's out there chopping things up.
Master Crafter.
Yep.
So another thing, everyone. Bill Master Crafter's on. He showed me the pre-miniatures for the fundraiser. And you're going to all laugh your asses off. Okay? That's all I'm going to say for puppets on steroids. Steven. Oh, and Steven has confirmed for the game too, everyone. Steven's playing with Ed Greenwood.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, and Darling and Bones, and Steven. There you go. That'll be and 1 or 2 of my guys, maybe. That's the wrong one. What am I doing? Needle. Frick that. That's just as bad. I don't even know where the puppets went. It's somewhere. Puppets.
We got a lot of comments on a zombie outbreak while you're looking for that. We got one. Mysterio's got a zombie outbreak. That's very cool. Maybe we need to do a setting with a zombie outbreak going on.
There's a lot of Age of Worms has a kind of possibility for that happening, but they're Cayuse zombies with the worms growing in and out of them too. All the from that. So that's but it's not like it didn't happen. Or you're trying to stop it. Yeah.
I'm also experimenting with my campaign to have a difference between animated corpses that only animated like an animated broom or something like that, or divinely created, meaning evil deity creates undead, and make them different. One is construct, the other one is undead, and they will have different physical, and it might be really difficult because you have to fight them with different methods. They are affected by magic differently and stuff like that, so you have to sort out one from the other. So necromancers, they are arcane necromancers. They animate them, they become more constructs. But if you're an evil cleric, you use your divine powers to infuse that into it, negative energy and all that, and they become undead, so to speak. And you can have variants for it. So that was one of my ideas, to confuse and make it a bit more varied, but still have it within the rules, so to speak.
That's cool. That's the way to do it. And it's one of those things, that the whole raise dead spell is a dangerous. You get one jackass cleric wandering around just raising everybody.
All right, I'm gonna do a cheesy trivia question. Name a recent TV/movie series, and who was the necromancer behind all the zombie hordes that came out in that series? Just recently, it was like 4 of them, and they got worse as each movie went. No.
4 movies.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And who was it? A legend in the gaming world. Oh. Yes! Wandering got it. Mythica. Matt
Oh.
Mercer was the necromancer.
Oh,
I have not seen that yet.
You
Is it
haven't
worth
seen
watching?
them?
Yeah, Jason Fade was talking about those the other day, and I had never actually looked. Are they worth watching? Are they good?
The first 2 are really good. The third one is kind of campy. It's got this stupid war machine thing. It looks like they built a cardboard box and they put it on wheels. It's yeah, and the fourth, they had to finish it up somehow with the fourth one. I give it, yeah. If you can, it used to be on Amazon, right? Yeah, it's Mythica.
Yeah, I'll watch. I can watch almost anything. It is rare that I can't find some enjoyment out of it.
The first 2 are really good. I thought the third and fourth ones were led to be desired, but the first 2 are really good in the series. I think there's 4, right? There's 4 or 5 movies. It was all Kickstarter funded.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Matt Mercer's the main bad guy in it. It's Matthew Mercer in that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something to check out. How do I have time to watch anything? I'm not always streaming, Statler. No. So, they're what the Dungeons and Dragons movie should be. Well, yeah, but so was Hawk the Slayer, and that's from 1981, and that's campy as hell, right? So, I mean, yeah, campiness is great. So, I don't know if you saw. Robert Hartley's coming in with a rate of 250.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
Wow, Roberts. I got the legendary Stephen Chenault, owner of Troller Games on, and Anna Meyer, and it's great to see you, Robert and crew.
Hello,
and we
everybody.
got welcome, and we have 7 giveaways tonight, everyone.
yes.
It's good to see you all, and of course, I know I have a shout out for Robert, and I can't find it. I got so many different button pages. Oh my God!
That is an amazing raid. That is very cool.
Yeah. Stick around, especially if you're into Castles and Crusades. We're talking taking classes for Castles and Crusades, putting in a My Old School campaign, or utilizing whatever you want. As a DM, that's what we're talking about: DMing and utilizing what's available for you out there. So,
reading it up. For those of you not familiar with Castles and Crusades, you can go to the Trollord website. You can download it.
I'm going to shoot this out right now. I'm going to shoot out this. And Chuck, if you're on, can you put that direct link? There we go.
Yeah, to the featured. There we go. Yep, you can download the Monster Book and the Player's Handbook and be playing CNC and not spend a dime.
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm. One thing I love about Steven, Chuck, the whole crew at Castles and Crusades, especially if you see them on their Tuesday and Thursday night, just where Steven just rambles and they talk about stuff, which is great. They're genuine. You can tell. They really care about the industry and the game. I'm not going to badmouth anyone else. You're not going to get that from a lot of other companies. So
it's a lot of rambling on those shows, that's for sure.
But it's good rambling. It's really good rambling. So, hey, Mike Disney, good to see you.
Hello.
Please, everyone, follow Robert Hartley. Robert is the cream of the crop when it comes to DMs and when it comes to personality. What a great guy. All the Pacific Rim streamers, please, they're all great people. So, please give him a follow.
AS Silence, very, very cool.
So,
see more people gaming.
Yeah. So, Steven, when you get a chance, watch Mythica. I think it was on Amazon.
I'll check it out. I remember Jason talking about it. And like I said, even Hawk the Slayer, I remember watching it. It's a fun movie. It's very campy.
It is. And Jack Palance. How can you get better than Jack Palance?
That's the one where they show the rapid bow shot.
Yeah, Crow.
The same
the elf.
Over and over. Yeah.
Crow the elf, yeah. And when we were kids, it came out like 80, 81.
Yeah, long time. And there was a bunch of fantasy movies in those days, and not many of them were like great.
But I don't know if you've seen my wall downstairs. So the stand-up 29 by 42 standard movie poster, Hawk the Slayer was never done in that style in the United States, Steven, and I wanted it. I wanted to get rid of the stupid Dungeons and Dragons movie with from the 90s, that poster. I wanted to get rid of that. And so they were all right to left, and even in the UK. But it turns out they released some in English in Lebanon, and I just got it for Christmas. I finally found one and got it, and I got it. Yeah, the Hawk the Slayer poster, and it took me like 10 years to find one. Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, I could have got one in Turkish, but I'm like, I don't understand what it says. So yeah, I got the English one. Hey, Duff, good to see you too. But yeah, so I got Hawk the Slayer, 13th Warrior, Excalibur,
Great movie.
and oh my God, what's my last one? What am I missing? Oh my God.
Dragon Slayer.
No, I don't.
Yeah, that might
Hold,
be
oh,
it.
Knight
Yeah.
Riders.
Okay. Yeah.
Knight Riders.
Yeah, yeah. It's Ed Harris from 1980. They joust on motorcycles.
I don't know that I've seen that.
Yeah,
That
it's awesome, and even Stephen King's even in the movie.
Are you kidding me?
No, Stephen, it's Richard Romero. Creep Show. He does it. Romero, yeah, and he's friends with Stephen King. Stephen King's in the audience, like shoving a hoagie down his gullet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yep.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I'm gonna have to track that down.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've actually.
Yeah,
seen that.
the guy, one of the guys from the vampire movie that George Clooney was in, Dust Till Dawn. He's in that. He's in it too. The Italian guy, one Italian guy in that. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's long too, but it's
Okay.
Check it out,
I
Knight
got
Riders.
the trailer here. I'm not gonna play it. I'll watch this after the stream.
It's a long movie. You'll be like, "What the hell's going on here?" Yeah, no horses.
I like anything that's weird. I really like weird stuff that I don't know what's going to happen next. It makes it for a little bit more.
So with the campiness and with all that, and I'm 13 years old, things get in your head, and then you start developing. And whenever you're as a DM, you start developing your style, right? And I'm early on, Stephen, I was like, there are classes missing in basic D&D. Why isn't there a necromancer? And then they came out with this second edition one, which sucked, right? It just was.
Yeah, I never shifted to second edition, so I didn't do.
Yeah,
I always thought there needed to be a witch in AD&D. And
yes.
We made about 8 classes, I think. And I know the witch was one that I really wanted in the game because I love the concept behind the witch. I absolutely. What's the story? Hansel and Gretel. I love the whole idea there. It's just very, very cool. So we put a witch into it. I can't remember some of the other classes, but necromancer. I don't know. We call it necromancer, but it's something to do with the undead. It's been so long. I got like your notebooks there. I got a big red notebook with all of our notes that we built throughout the 80s. As we slowly developed some of which I should say, spilled into Castles and Crusades. But yeah, there was always something missing. I absolutely loved the Unearthed Arcana when it came out.
Thanks, Patrick.
The only class I didn't like was the Thief Acrobat, but Todd, who still sits at my table, loves that character. So there was many Thief Acrobats at my table. Love that book, though.
Yeah, and the one thing I didn't like about the Unearthed Arcana, Stephen, was they took the Dragon 72 Cavalier and they changed it and made some changes I really didn't like. We still use the one from the Dragon 72 article as opposed to the Unearthed Arcana Cavalier. Well, it's that's minor stuff. It was overall it was a great publication, but you find out as you're going along that there's classes missing, and I'm going to say an ode to our dearly departed legendary friend of Anna and me, Leonard Lakofka, was on our shows about 40 times, right, over those first 3 years before he passed. He knew what he was doing. He made that art. He made classes galore in Dragon magazines, right? Ton of them. Death Masters, right? The Archer was our first class we actually used that was outside of the base classes from his article, and to this day we still use the Archer. Now we tweaked it here and there. So Leonard was ahead of the curve in class creation, and he made all these he made entertainers, and he made all sorts of other stuff. Alchemists, smiths. He did some great work, but I always said to myself, it's my game. Why can't I add all these races and classes, classes, and then tweak them however I want? It's my game, and I think that's what Anna calls it the 1.J rules. And I'm thinking to myself now, and Chuck's been on me. You should run CNC. I don't think I'd be true to myself if I switch from 1E 2E over to, but I use your adventures, and I use ideas and stuff, and there's no reason why we can't take a look at some of these great classes out of this book.
No,
out of this book, and let's see what we got. We got some great stuff in here. Now, tell us about the archive, this archive
So
book.
the archives collected all of the classes from there. I felt the classes were getting a little bit scattered. There's 13 in the player's handbook. I think there's 14 in the adventurer's backpack. There was a few in Hallowed Oracle, and then Amazing Adventures had 8 or 9 or some. I can't remember. They were just getting kind of scattered in every which direction. And when I'm sitting there in CNC, there's no rules bloat in Castles and Crusades. We have avoided that very carefully. But there's a lot of source books in Castles and Crusades that you can tap into for just extra gaming material if you want. And I felt that the players should not have to have 5 different books piled at his table in front of him. So I wanted them all compiled together. So we put all of those classes together in the player's archive. We abbreviated stuff so it fit. It's black and white, so it's not expensive. I think that book's $19.99. I can't remember what it costs, but and it's got them all in it, so you can kind of bypass all other stuff. Grab the archives, and you're golden, and you can play on it. And so it's got a little bit of a mixture of modern in there because the Amazing Adventures classes are in there, and I think it's got the multi-classing rules.
Yep.
And it doesn't. Okay, I couldn't.
Dual classing too. Changing classing, dual classing. It's all in here. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Sandy developed for CNC this absolutely beautiful system where you can take, you can say you're playing a knight and you get to 7th level, but you want this knight to have some kind of warrior priest abilities. You can merge the two now. He did this beautiful little system for it, and that's in there too. So it's just chock full of class. Ignore
page 128. It just says OGL there. Just kidding.
Nah, it's gotta go. It's all gotta go. It's really aggravating. We got all these books.
I just noticed it. I was like, at the very bottom.
I thought very briefly when the controversy exploded last week or whenever it was, I thought, we need to just get an X-Acto knife and just cut OGL and all of them. Just be done with it.
Yeah, it was a joke there, and killed by orc. Yeah, so we're gonna. Hey, whatever happens. We don't need to go, and it's going like this now. It's in circles, right? And it's just
And I don't listen. It's this is a business, and as much as it is making games and all that stuff, and Wizards of the Coast is making decisions that they feel are best. I don't agree with them. I think they're going about this the wrong way. But they're all in. So there you go.
And just for the record, you will be fine. Troller Games will be fine, correct? No matter what happens.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Tequist, thank you for that. He said credit to Stephen for seeing the future of how this would play out. And I figured this was going to go the direction it was. The nice thing about Castles and Crusades, for those of you who new to my game from Troller Games, it's not my game. I didn't create it. Davis Chenault and Matt Golden did. It uses the Siege engine. It's an attribute check system, which 5th edition borrowed pretty heavily from when they developed that. And we own that whole mechanic. The Siege engine is owned by Troller Games. And that's what powers everything. Most companies use the OGL and the SRD to create game content for the game of Dungeons and Dragons. We don't. We use the OGL and the SRD to create a little bit of extra content for Castles and Crusades. And the primary reason that we did that was for Dungeons and Dragons players like myself to come over and feel at home. So you could find a bag of holding or a Sword of Sharpness. And it was all the same thing that you've been playing for, 5 or 10 or 20 years, however long you've been playing it. And you felt at home. That was really the primary purpose for that. So now with the latest that's coming down from Wizards of the Coast, and it doesn't look like they're going to back off their attempt to rescind 1.0A, and that is a whole legal question that I am not a lawyer, so I'm not even going to weigh into that argument. I've got a lawyer that gave me quite a bit of comfort cases so I feel good about it all. But since they're going to do that, we are going to, moving forward immediately, start removing the OGL from all of our content in the future, and we're done with it. So some of those names will change. We will try to keep a familiar feel about it, but Castles and Crusades, moving forward, not stopping. World of Air will be next, and it won't be any OGL. And then the Armory, the Adventurer's Armory, which Davis is working on, now will be next, and we've already yanked the OGL and changed all the content for it. So we are going to come out of this stronger than when we went into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited.
And
Yeah.
for what Ann and I are working on, 99.5% of it never, just a couple names. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Everything was my own creation, you know. So
So no, Altamira should be spot on. We do got to talk about one thing. I don't know if we want to bring it on stream, but I got to talk about one tiny little thing that I keep forgetting to bring up to you.
oh, doesn't have to do with the death of the. Nope.
Yeah,
I can bring it up if you want, but
well, yeah, that was the most hilarious thing I've encountered in so long. That was and please, Stephen, tell the story. This is so cool, and the way you told
I
it
thought
was so good.
Okay.
Please.
The kumquat tree?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. The way, and you have to tell. We realized this happened when we thought the sky was falling down and all that. So we were, yeah. So when Stephen, please go on.
So when we first started talking about doing the Free City of Altamira, I got super excited. It's this great concept, and then looking at the maps Anna's doing and all the work that Jay's put into it, and then when he mentioned to me, what's the kumquats is the knights, that's their holy tree, or something. I can't remember exactly what it is.
There's grows of kumquats right at the site of Altamira, and they still have. Yeah, it's a viable.
So that's the thing. So I
crop.
thought, okay, I'm going to get a kumquat tree, and I'm going to raise this kumquat tree all year, so that when we do the Kickstarter later next year, that being this year now, we'd have this really beautiful kumquat tree that we could, show. It'd be cool and produce fruit and the whole 9 yards. Well, I am horrible with plants. I like the idea of plants. I just can't keep them alive. I should probably live in the desert somewhere where they're a little bit more hardy. But Monday, so the OGL stuff, I guess, explodes.
Yeah.
Last Thursday or whatever it was, and we're all running around trying to figure out what's happening. And stuff's getting canceled and put off and all this other stuff. Well, one of my primary concerns, I came in Monday and the tree was here in the office, so because it was so cold, and one of the branches had died, and I thought, okay, I got to do something about this. But I got caught up in the OGL mess, and when I came to the office Tuesday, it was mostly dead. It was not doing well.
Mostly dead, like Princess Bride.
Mostly dead. Well, I think there was like 2 branches at that point, but it had dropped. I don't have it in the office. It had dropped all of these. Oh yeah, I got one right here. It rolled under the fan. It dropped these beautiful kumquats. There was like 60 of them. Yep. And they're all over the anyways. So the tree suddenly by Thursday it's dead. And we're having a meeting about Altamira, I guess Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, Friday morning. Friday afternoon. Yeah.
And you started the meeting with the most somber look I've ever seen.
Like, oh my God, what happened?
That day. Yeah.
Yeah, I said that I got some before we begin, I want to get this out of the way. We got some really bad news. And I know you guys, I didn't even think about it, but you guys were thinking we're going to have to cancel Altamira.
Exactly. That was my thought. Okay, now you got like whistle lawyers up your wazoo saying cease and desist or whatever, meaning anything. And then the kumquat tree died. And it was awesome.
Now it's not dead yet. And Davis, so my brother, who is extraordinarily good with plants, we were looking at it. He came down Thursday, brought a bunch of books down from the warehouse, and I told him about it. He looked at it and goes, "Oh, it's probably a virus or something." I don't know what he said. And I go, "Well, I got to do something. I can't let Jay and Anna know that the tree died. I got to do something." And he goes,
"That's so awesome." Yeah, it's not funny.
Goes, "Well, plant a new one." And I said, "Well, how am I going to plant a new one?" And he scooped up all of these fruits, and he goes, "Well, you can use their seeds." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a seed."
Kumquat 2.0.
Yep.
That's right. So it'll be like the trees of Valinor, didn't Ungoliant?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Oh my gosh, it's.
So I'm going to give it to Davis to take care of.
See if Davis can bring it
but
back.
It was a wonderful story. That was the highlight of my week was when you said that. It was such a relief, and it was so comical. Yep.
So let's go. Let's talk some turkey here on some classes. All right, Stephen. So if you got something to tell me off screen, we'll wait till then. There's no problem. As long as it's not on the level of the death of the kumquat tree.
No, it's not. It's just one of those things that I don't know where we are on.
Plus, we got a ton of announcements too, including something going on at GaryCon, right? That'll be with
yes.
Trollard. Yeah.
So I think Chuck. Chuck, Chuck's with us. I know he's feeling
Yeah,
a
he's
bit
on
under
it.
the weather,
He's on. He
but
just said poor tree in chat, so he's reclining and chatting.
we didn't get at GaryCon. We're going to do a just kind of an open gathering for people to come in. We didn't get the window area that we wanted, but it looks like we're going to have a place in the Chop House.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little reception there, Troller Games and Anime, talking Trollord stuff and Altimeter stuff there, little sneak peeks and all. It'll be good.
And you don't need a ticket. Just come on in. Leave when you want, come when you want, and the whole thing. So
we'll let everyone know details as it comes up for GaryCon. Those that are going to be there, so it'll be really. I think we're talking between 1 and 3 on Friday. That's Central Time. So I had some of my guys go through some of these, and I went through some of these, and I really am intrigued by a couple. Now, the one I was most intrigued by is the one that is the one that Chuck's like, you can't use that one. And I'm like, what's wrong with it, right? And that's this rune mark. What page is this on? Just swing down to it. Page 78. Let's go here.
So the rune mark, it was created originally specifically for Aird, because in the world of Aird, which we're putting Altamira in, so this works beautifully with the direction that you're going. The Allfather creates the world with the language of creation, and magic is actually bits and just snippets of that language. A wizard or a priest is able to channel or master a tiny, tiny little,
of course, Jimmy,
just snippet of it. The rune mark specifically, at some point in the world's history, the dwarves start putting this magic into runes, and the rune mark is someone who masters that. At low levels, they have to etch the rune out and on something, and at high levels, they can actually vocalize the rune. One of the inspiration, talk about movies that inspired us, Jay, the whole Dune thing. Now I watched the movie before I read the book, the original Dune movie. But that scene where they first use the voice modulator, Paul Atreides does the thing and he breaks the
wording module.
Yeah. That scene was just absolutely astounding to me. And I wanted to capture that in the rune mark so that they could actually have that kind of voice, that vocal power. So the rune mark has that. I really don't know what Chuck's objections to it is. The class plays very well, but I will say this would be my only objection to it. And I wrote it, but it's a little bit complicated. You kind of got to pay attention, which is kind of opposite of normally the way I run games. I don't really do complicated stuff, but the rune mark's a little bit complicated.
So I always take stuff and back convert it to 1E, 2E. And I'm thinking to myself, rune magic itself is almost like tattoo magic, but rune magic is on items instead of people. True?
So you can definitely go that route, absolutely. But now by the time the rune mark gets a little bit more powerful, they can, that's the vocalizing. There's also tattooing. There's some other stuff into it, and that's a little bit where the complexity goes. And what Chuck's saying in the stream here is it needs to be presented in a little bit more clear manner, because you have static and active runes. So when you cast, you can have a certain number of static runes. Like there's one rune mark that they encountered, and this guy had, I can't remember the number of stones around his hut in the Darkened Fold, had these rune spells cast into it. But when I was designing the spell, I thought, man, you got to put a cap on that, or it's like the cleric with the undead. This rune mark could just be wandering around putting runes on stones.
Right. Yes.
Just throwing them around in his bag or something. So it's a problem. So I capped it. So that's where it gets a little bit complicated, and the presentation needs a little bit fixed up. But I think working that back into AD&D is not going to be that. It's not going to be that tough. You probably just limit the spells per day or what have you.
It also has a feel almost to some World of Warcraft stuff too, which we used to play, where we had, there was enchantments right on armor and stuff. There's things that can be done. So I liked it because it was something that is not in my game at all. We do have tattoo magic, and it's very, very limited, because I have them, like the Old Faith Obadiah druids can actually do it in my game way back, and I think there may be 4 or 5 characters, including one of them being Darling's halfling. Rosie has one tattooed on her, an insignia. She can do a heal, like a 1/8 healing once per day with it in daytime in the sunlight. You can activate it and that kind of stuff. Yep, there you go, Darling. Absolutely. But I'm thinking to myself, this is something that I could add in. It's not. There's nothing like it in our game now as far as rune magic.
Right.
Anna, what about your thoughts?
To me, it's interesting to see. Some games, D&D versions of D&D, I'm kind of and similar games. I kind of bored with that everything is cookie cutter spells. All the magics are kind of just mechanically functions exactly as spells, and that's kind of boring. So it's cool to see something that there should be parallel magic systems that could be of roughly equal power, but you can kind of facilitate magic in a different way. And that was, I think, one of the problems with third edition was that almost everything was spells, and whether you call them something different, if they are spells, and to me it's kind of cool that some magic should function in kind of different ways and have a different rules mechanic as well. And this is kind of cool because this ties into that variation and a little bit of mysticism and stuff. So it's kind of cool to have magic that not always works like the classic Vancian caster, which normally most D&D clerics, they just come from a different source, but the spells work exactly the same and stuff. And that is kind of boring. Sometimes you should have magic that works a little bit different. I think that adds to it, but it's hard from a game balancing perspective, I guess, too.
The game balance is hard. I'm glad you said that, because that kind of shook loose one of the major parts of the class that I kind of brushed over.
Yeah.
So you can cast multiple runes simultaneously. So like one round, so you can cast a rune round one, and round two another, and then round three another, and they can interact. And the nice thing about that is and this is the way I play it, and I think it's a little bit challenging. I guarantee you both are going to love this because you've been DMing so long. This is where it's a little bit challenging for the CK. I kind of open it up to the player's interpretation. When you read those spells, they're not super detailed. I leave it to kind of, so Chris, who plays the rune mark at my table, he'll always say, okay, this is what I want this to do.
Yeah.
Okay. He may or may not do it, but he's weaving 3 spells together or 2 spells together simultaneously. And it gives this, and you're right, you're spot on, Anna, because so many of the spells, I've been gaming since 76 or whatever. And, you know, I don't know how many fireballs have gone on my table, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
So
Magic missile.
Yeah. Do you set power limits to this, meaning that at a certain level of character can do this much damage or something, or how do you do hardcore limitations in it, or
there's not many direct damaging runes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It's mostly enhancing.
Yeah, a lot of them enhance items. You can go that direction, or you can try to make things happen around. There's a little bit of damaging in it. But the limitation comes in, before you can cast a rune spell, you've got to make an attribute check. You've got to successfully make every single time. You don't get to automatically do it.
Yep.
And if you fail, it's just gone. You got to, it's gone for a day or whatever it is. But the damage is that part I do kind of catalog a little bit to give the CK some kind of guidelines, because that stuff can go, really over the top fast.
Plus they're alchemists too.
Yeah.
But yes, and the other huge inspiration for the rune mark was Sauron himself. I loved the concept of Tolkien when he described Sauron making the ring and he spills himself into that ring. I thought that was so very, very cool when I read it the first time 1,000 years ago. So the rune mark actually, I tried to codify that concept in the class itself. They can make a relic, but doing so, they have to put themselves into that relic. And if that relic, if they are separated from it, then that part that they put in it is gone. It's with the relic. Or if the relic is destroyed, it has massive, it may not kill you, but it might kill you. So that was all kind of woven in. And that's sort of what Chuck is talking about. It needs a slightly cleaner, so that you can read it quick and know what you can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
so you don't have to
you talk. One interesting mechanic is that to make magic unreliable, meaning it's kind of a little bit mystic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. That's a really cool thematic. But I mean, most players, as a player, you hate it because you want, when you have limited resources and you want to firebomb that pesky whatever monster is, you want that to go off 100% of the time. So if you ask, I think most players, they will sacrifice that cool kind of mysticism for reliability, so to speak, which most game systems fall into. But it is cool if you can somehow give more mysticism. You say, for instance, I'm thinking playing about one, that spells can be delayed, and then if the more they're delayed, and then the more they go boom afterwards, so something like that. So you don't fizzle out completely. So sometimes it's unreliable, but it will always give you some sort of effect, so to speak. That is one way. So there are many ways you can kind of, there are many dials to use, so to speak. And as a DM, so don't nerf the players too much, but wild magic wizards and casters are really appealing up until you actually play one. That some players thrive with it. A lot of players just get frustrated. So yeah.
Darling's got a wild mage too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there was the Wand of Wonders, or whatever it was, and one time, a few times, it was only butterflies coming out of it when you wanted to do something, and then you pointed at something else, and the whole house burned down. And those are fun, but they're also kind of game breakers as well. So yeah.
Here's my playtest style. Whenever I bring a class in, I normally run an NPC and throw it against party. The class reverse.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
And normally I do that, and then I open it up for a wild new first, or you can make a slight change. Or now that I have all these special groups running around, I can get Darling or Bones or Anna or Chuck or Mike Disney or someone to play test it for me. And we, instead of waiting, because we do a new group every 2 years. In my group with 26 different adventuring groups, it gets bogged down. So, but that tends to be what happens here with this one. I like this because it was so different to what we have. And, it said we'd have very limited tattoo magic in the game. But I think this would be a little bit something that we could develop. And I think, and Darling asked the question, where does this tie into Greyhawk? I'm like, well, where's this tie into the Altimer box set with the mountains around there? I can create a story up and say, a mysterious rune master's coming to town. Now,
yeah,
I can do that too.
Rune magic.
Right.
Come on, dwarves.
Yeah, and there's dwarves
to me,
all
it's
over.
like really cool. You can have like a dwarven rune. Wizard or something that would be kind of cool. You can have someone that scribes in protective spells on dwarven gates and all sorts of stuff like that. And then if you mess with his work, then he gets pissed at you and things go bad, so to speak. And that's one thing you could. I can even see humanoid version of it, so to speak. That he paints nasty things, weird things on shields for warriors, whatever. And then when you encounter him, then these things go off, and half the time they kill the wearer of it, and the other time kills everybody in front of you. So you can do, and the way I usually play test it, because I'm not so beholden to the class concept, but I take these kind of features and play test them feature by features against the players. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, instead of coming up with the whole class to see if it works, okay, maybe this thing works, and then I test it in encounter and see what happens, so to speak, and then I can let the players play with that thing, so to speak. And the same thing with spells and stuff. Now I'm testing where the power limits of really powerful evil spells should be. That for my campaign, that's one of the things to see if I can dial that up and down and play with it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yes. Hey, that's you. You like being shouted out there, Heather? Heather Hex is going to be our special guest coming up in the next Slav Squad game. Coming up in the 28th. Yeah, and it's Ancient Evils is the name of the adventure. So here's the next one, Stephen, that I like. And so with me, with 43 specialty priests, 4 specialty druids, I think this could be a good enhancement, change, or variant on a specialty priest. That's a luminary.
Okay.
That's
one that Jason created. That comes from the Hallowed Oracle, I think.
Okay. And I like this, that he's made it so that there are different types, right? It says a luminary is a holy person, a priest or priestess blessed by the gods, granted the power to work miracles in their name. So, and it says it's a variant of the standard Castles and Crusades cleric class. So, it feels specialty priest-like in my game, but with some other abilities. It's kind of hybridized druids with shape-shifting, almost a spirit totem animal feel to it, and they can turn undead, so they got the clerical aspect of that. I think I could weave this into my specialty priest and make certain ones that would fit, like a Tritherian specialty priest could have a luminary version.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, I like this, and they have divine magic there, so and they may have limited spell selection as opposed to the specialty priest. and I do have some other abilities that are slightly different. I just think for flavor, it could be a possibility.
It's interesting you approach it the same way I approach it, because the abilities come last. I just want to know what the concept is behind this class, or whatever your monster, whatever it is, because then I can adjust anything that I need to, once you're at the table. But it's really that flavor that I'm looking for.
Exactly. I like variety, and that's why the one thing, well, multiple things that I liked of second edition. The number one thing was a specialty priest, and I bow to the Eric Boyd, who's basically the father of the specialty priest. He came up with the idea, and that Forgotten Realms deities book that the writing is so small in it, right? All 3 books that they did, and it has tons and tons of them, and they started putting them in the Greyhawk as well. He did articles in Polyhedron for Greyhawk, and I'm like, this is great. Every cleric is different now. It's not just a cleric, right? And so I kind of like this as another idea.
Hey, Jay, I had a question here. I just
Please.
saw it pop up. Was the rune magic in CNC inspired by the D&D Northern Reaches of 2E HR Viking system? No, I didn't get into second edition too much. The rune magic, the way I developed it, it really came out of the mythology of Aird. When I wrote the whole, for those of you who don't know, our de facto world, I don't know where my codex is, it's somewhere around here. Our de facto world is the world of Aird, and the Codex of Aird, and it's got 120-page, 250,000
we'll have this
word history behind it, mythology behind it. That's the player's guide to Aird there.
Get that player's
guide. My codex wandered off too. Oh, there it is, right on the desk. Yeah, so there's the Codex. We're actually kickstarting this one here in the next few weeks, the 3rd printing of it. But when I wrote that, the dwarves are kind of the primary race in the beginning, and they're the ones that crafted the Allfather. They couldn't quite vocalize the Allfather's magic. So the Allfather knows the language of creation, and only 3 beings actually hear it. The dwarves in the beginning. There's a dragon, and then another god who knows the language of creation. Well, the dwarves heard it, but they could never understand it. They could never vocalize the language of creation. Their minds weren't built that way, but they eventually figured out how to write it down. And when they start writing it down, they start realizing that this rune magic, that these runes, that this magic, they can contain it in items. And that's what Jay was alluding to earlier. And that's the earliest form of rune magic. Fast forward 10,000 years or whatever, I can't remember the time frame. It's many thousands of years. The dwarven kingdoms were all destroyed and wasted through many, many years, and blah, blah, blah. In the age of magic users is when humans begin to discover this dwarven crafting of runes into stone and iron, and they begin to take the rune magic from that and create, and that's where the rune mark comes from, and all their magic spells. And what I did is I created schools. There's schools of rune magic. There's dark magic, there's chaos magic, plane travel magic, just all kinds of, and it's unlimited. You could sit down and make thousands of these schools for your own game. There's no limit to it whatsoever. I think I've written about 240, and those appear in the Adventurer's Spellbook. So it really didn't come from any, there's obviously, I imagine I had dozens of sources of inspiration over the past many years, but overall, it came from my own mythologies.
Yeah, I got that right. I pre-loaded a couple. There you go, the Adventure Spellbook as well too. So
yeah, scroll down just a little bit to the table of contents. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll see there's the rune magic schools, the blood runes, the winter runes, shadow runes, dragon runes, color runes, dream runes.
Beautiful. So for using that rune. So for using the rune mark, I'm going to need this anyway. That's good. So
it'll help. Yeah.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Gosh. Yeah. Bash making the OGL. The OGL jokes are going to be going on forever and ever and ever. So no matter what happens, here's a funny story. 22E isn't under any OGL, right? There was no OGL then. So
no, there was not.
Yeah, back in the old days. So that number 2.
Back in the old days.
That was number 2. Anna, do you like any of these in this book? Before
I must say the rune stuff is the one I'm most interested in, because that kind of ties into it's that little bit of mysticism and a bit off the beaten track, so to speak. So yeah, I really that fills a niche, I think, in the inventory of what
Yeah, it's
players
awesome.
should be able to have their characters toy with, so to speak. So and versions of the standard magic is, I think, something that I want to have, and for my when I play, I want to have multiple levels of things, meaning who gives you the magic, or do you figure it out yourself, and then where do the powers drawn from, so to speak? Is it the divine being that gives the power to you to do things, or are you figuring out how to use shadow power or power from some other elemental source or something like that? Do you tie into the negative energy and or something like that? So I want to and then how do you do it? Meaning, do you write scrolls? Can you store it there? Can you carve it into rock formations, or carve it in, or do you not do you take ropes and put knots and stuff in it, and dip them in some weird oil or something and then burn them, or
That's
whatever?
all the stuff you can develop too. You can make
Exactly.
that in your game,
Yeah,
which is really cool.
exactly. Meaning, come up with stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to have the
Yeah.
different types of stuff that can change in Magic and be altered, so to speak, to
That's
play with
cool.
it. So yeah, so I want to yeah.
I have to say, one of my favorite classes in the Player's Archive and the Adventurer's Backpack is that Primal Druid.
Let's take a look.
Mark Sandy, he wrote that years and years ago, and I remember when he developed the concept for it. I can't remember if we were camping. We used to camp a lot in those days, or if we were just sitting in the yard and there was some storm brewing, and we were talking D&D like we always did. This is way back. This was sometime in the 90s. And he made a comment that I thought was really cool. He said, a druid, really, the job of the druid is not to protect the forest from people. It's to protect people from nature, because nature is so brutal, unforgiving, and in a lightning storm, there's nothing you can do. And I remember saying, dude, you need to write that up. So he wrote it up, we sort of run it in our games, and it eventually went into Codex of Arid first printing, and now it's in the thing. And the whole concept behind the Primal Druid is he protects you from nature, because nature is so extremely violent and unforgiving. And I love that concept. I love the concept of it. My kumquat tree needed a Primal Druid.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely. I'm just looking to see here.
You need a gardener druid, so yeah.
Maybe I'm just a gardener.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you that the druid is too cookie cutter, and the druid we have is kind of cool as one concept, but the tree hugger druid that we've seen more and more of lately, that I think is a reflection of the current ideas and problems and stuff we have in the current world. And a fantasy world definitely needs way more versions of the druid. So yeah, in my campaign, I definitely have them as priests that use the forces of nature to basically shape the world, and they use the powers of nature in order to defend and protect and stuff. That was how it came from. I look at the inspiration of what we have of the early faiths, meaning you see the divine sun and death and growth and fertility and stuff like that. It's kind of a primitive, simple religion, so to speak, and they have the basic tenets, and then it evolved from there. You start having more personality. I'm looking at the what kind of the history of religion and try to make a fantasy version of that, and then tie in druid to how I assume a fantasy version of people of the Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and these kind of really ancient civilizations, how their kind of idea of religion, so to speak, and have it like that, and more primal forces, and they're kind of more, they do different things. They're not as specialized than others, and nature being a brutal force that needs to be tamed and stuff. I think that's a great part of that theme. So yeah,
I love that concept. And it's not necessarily that if someone cuts a tree down that's a bad thing. You can cut the tree down. The whole thing. I think you're right. It's the druidic concept has gone kind of in this interesting but odd direction, and I like.
It's one of the roles a druid can have in your campaign, but I think there's more nature magic based magic and primal magic like that can fill a lot more roles, so to speak. I think.
Right.
So
Yeah, nature's pretty unforgiving.
Yeah. Especially in like a fantasy world where you have more powers like that
Right.
and more dimensions to it, and population levels are usually low, and there are big scary monsters that can be weapons of mass destruction, so to speak, that are
Right.
kind of part of nature. Then druids have I think a role to fill there. So yeah.
for me, I agree on. I wanted to make druids a little varied, and when we started our
Yeah.
SV Forest gaming up out there in the IU's area, we created factions of druidism with different deities. Ceranos, I always loved Ceranos. Even though he's not really in the Demigods book, but he was in a supplemental Dragon magazine article for him. Alana, the Master of the Hunt, which I just love that story, and Deities and Demigods, Stephen, the one where the dogs are chasing you, and the Master. Yeah. So the Master of the Hunt was a ripoff of Malar from Forgotten Realms. I'm going to be brutally honest. All right, and real thing, Ralphil's the tree, which is the Sylvan Elf, deity. And then we had the Avenger class, which kind of made him a little bit more spellcasting with lightning and earth spells mixed in as well. And that kind of existed in Baldur's Gate 2, the video game. And I was like, this is a good idea. I'm going to rip it off. So that, if you're not stealing, you're not trying, right? Sometimes you got to, and so that's how we made our druids a little bit more, and we give them alignment changes outside of that neutral. So
I have evil druids in my Greyhawk campaign, and because druids in my Greyhawk campaign are tied to the old Flan. They are the religion of the Flan, and they are kind of not the oldest. They old for Iridian. That's the high ups and the scholars of the Great Kingdom that say, oh, these are the old barbarians, old ways, so to speak. But from a Flan perspective, that's the more modern version of it. And what they have is also one order of the Druidic faith that of their faith that was basically their, if things go bad and someone comes in and wants to exterminate us, you take the worst baddest tenants of us and you bring them forth, so to speak. And that's where Nerul comes from, and a bunch of others. And you have these the horned ones that are a druidic order, and their purpose is to simply exterminate whoever is a threat to. And so they made use of the worst scum of their own culture, so to speak, and made them, gave them a purpose. You live over there and we call for you, then you help us, and so on. And that was a way of both containing the evil within their own culture, and also to make it use of, and to simply scare off anyone to do anything bad, and especially the enemy to deal with them, and so to speak. So that was my thematic for the dark druids and stuff, and that was more kind of a common and
dark druids. Rob Kunz's Dark Druid
exactly.
adventure too.
Yeah.
And it's got if you haven't seen that, Steve, it's got the class in there, and I've introduced that as well.
Yeah. It's a very different take from mine, but it's a cool because his take on Rob Kunz's Dark Druid inspired me to make my version of it, so to speak. So
that's very cool. Someone mentioned Namkanator mentioned, and I never even occurred to me, a subterranean druid.
Yes,
dark elf, dark elves, deep gnomes.
Yeah,
why not?
Cave druids. Yeah,
I love that concept.
Yeah, I have a fungal druid that Zuktmoy. That Zuktmoy priests cult, that is part of the Dark Druid. Zuktmoy was one of the Flan
aquatic druid. You're right, Troy.
Yeah. So they cultivate the weapons of the underworld and fungi and death, so to speak. So and Orcus is another one, so to speak. So they tie into death, undeath, decay, and stuff like that. That's part of the Dark Druid faith, so to speak. So they used all the stuff that nature and similar stuff can arsenal of to get to their enemies. So yeah.
Stephen, you don't want to tango in Anna's campaign. It's so freaking nasty. Especially with the demonic trolls and her putting anti-paladins against fourth level characters. I'm sorry, Death Knights.
Oh yeah, the death. Yeah, and I haven't put my abyssal trolls. I was supposed to do them, but there are a couple of reasons, and I played the X card on myself. But they are coming. I just need to make new art for them because it was a little bit.
Shepherd Druid. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And Eberron. That's neat.
Yep.
Yeah. I know we're bouncing around a lot in this discussion.
Oh,
but
the zombie goats. Yeah, the
Yeah,
zombie goats.
the
Yeah.
discussion. This discussion is meant to just give you some thoughts and some ideas for your own
Yep.
campaign, mix and match,
Thank you, Amy.
and
Yep.
introduce a lot of people to Troller Games, Castles, and Crusades. And in fact,
Yep.
the one, I'm sorry, let me scroll up. If never, we've been linking it multiple times, and just note we're giving away 7 gift certificates tonight. So maybe get your chance to. Really see get some of these, and everything's available digital for the most part, right, Stephen? That's available in hardback.
PDF or
Did you need
yeah,
PDFs?
so you can download the Player's Handbook and Monsters and Treasures from our website now.
Yep.
You can go; it doesn't cost you anything. You get the PDF now. That's the 7th printing, and I think the 3rd printing of the M&T. But that gives you everything that you're good
Steve,
to go. We're on the 9th. Do what?
I'm sorry, Chuck's on. Chuck, can you link that again? The free download area. Can you do that, please?
The 9th printing is on sale now. It's full, beautiful hardcover. You can get it in PDF. You can get it print. You can get it print and PDF with an amazing art and a very, very friendly layout.
Yeah,
Now
definitely.
we are fixing to have to do a 10th printing to clean the OGL out of it, but that'll be, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome. Great to see. Good. Excellent. This is the next class I'm really intrigued with. Oh, Shattered, thank you for the huge cheer there. Thank you very much. Now this one, I'm gonna bet you Jason wrote this one too. Is that correct? The Pacer?
This is Todd Gray. Todd,
okay.
I think it's his favorite class. He loves. This is the one that someone mentioned the other day combining 2 classes and Todd would.
Fighters and Thieves almost, right? Kind of a little bit. All right. So,
yes.
So here's my background story on this class, the Pacer for my Altamira game. We all know that I use the Duelist class from Dragon Magazine, and we've used it forever since it first came out. I think that the Pacer and the rules we have, only one Duelist school is allowed per city. Okay, that's just the way it is. It's kind of almost like having a guildmaster, a thieves guild or whatever, but there's only one training Duelist school allowed in each, and the Pacers can be those rogue element duelists. They don't get theirs, and they get pissed off, and they go, "I'm going to hire myself out to this nobility or this merchant. I'm going to teach everyone a lesson." Kind of I get a chaotic feel to this class.
That's badass. That's very cool.
Yeah, and I think that's where this Pacer can go. It's got more thief abilities than a duelist does, so it's kind of a duelist that's fallen off the track of training the fighting core, and it's going out for themselves a little bit. I think I can make this work. Yeah, and it's got a lot of abilities that it kind of reminds me a lot of that duelist class. But this is really, and it's got tracking ability too, so they can be bounty hunters too.
I describe the Pacer as an urban ranger. It's probably not completely fair, but that's kind of how I pitch it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that, Stephen?
I describe it as an urban ranger.
Urban ranger, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I see it. It's a mix of multiple, like Ranger's thief almost, but really with a more self-preservationist for me deal as opposed to an Aragorn style ranger. Out there.
Back in the Greyhawk days, before I played in the world of Arid, I played in the world of Greyhawk. As I'm sure some of your people that attend your streams know, I'm a huge Greyhawk fan. But we ran many, many, many games in the city of Safeton, and that's where this Pacer evolved.
Oh, okay, great.
Ah.
Yeah.
In fact, Jimmy Duffy's in Safeton right now in his Slave Lords campaign. I saw it last night. Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So I like this class. I mean, once again, I need to figure out how to tweak it down to 1E, 2E, and use them, and then play test it a bit, and throw a Pacer at them at some point. And who knows? Maybe I'll do it to the Slav Squad or 2 drink minimum and throw it on Ed Greenwood. We'll see. But that was the 3 that I really stood out to me. The Rune Mark Luminary and Pacers ones that I can really start
excellent
utilizing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you'll have fun, and I don't think you're going to have much trouble, making it backwards compatible to AD&D. AD&D is an easy enough game to begin with, and it's malleable enough. So I think that rolling these 2 together is not going to be an issue.
Cool. Are there any?
I'm an AD&D hound, so.
Are there any classes that are not in this book that are like, I know there's a couple other publications, but I think this is the master compilation, the last.
Yeah, so you're going to find classes in some of the Mythos book. We have a series of books called the Mythos series, and it's Codex Egyptium, Codex Celtarum, Slavorum, Classicum, Germania, Nordica, and there's classes in some of those. Some of them have a lot of classes in them, and they're kind of built around the Mythos that Brian Young, that's the author, is doing. And then there's Chuck, what is that book called that the fans put up a bunch of CNC players? It's the Crusader Compendium or something. It's just absolutely full of classes. And now we can't sell it, or we don't sell it print anymore, but there's the Crusader Journal that has a smattering of classes in it. You still get that PDF on our website.
Definitely. Of all those. Yeah, absolutely.
But I did have to cap it when I first said I'm going to put all the classes in the archives book. I had to cap it because there's been a lot of classes created here and there.
Yeah, and we have classes that don't make the cut. We've had that before, so it's not like it's 100%. We play.
The irony is, Jay, as much as I love The Witch, it never made it to this book. It's not in the archive, so I don't know what I did wrong, but
we all need to get a certain individual on. I don't know where it is in my I haven't opened it up in a long time. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. But does anyone know Timothy Brannan? Timothy S. Brannan. He's on. He's been around.
I've seen the name. Yep.
Here we go. Mm-hmm. I found it. All right. So this is the 1E. This is his 1E version of the Witch. All right, and he's done this all the way through. I think 4. He didn't do one for 5th. So we utilize this along with the Dragon magazine article of 102 or whatever, in that era, and we've kind of hybridized it. But this is a first edition version of his Witch and this is in 2012. This was done, and we utilize this now for the Witch class that we have in our game, and it's really good. It has different styles of witches. Look, he's even got Elmore drawings in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's good, and I haven't had him on. I need to get him on the show. That would be really a good one. But yeah, that's definitely when you see something someone else has made. Hey man, that's why they made it. They made it for you for you to use it, and that's exactly what we do there.
Right.
He did Night Shift Veterans of the Supernatural Wars with Jason Vey. Okay, cool. All right, so he did do something with Jason Vey. All right, excellent. Also, the Witch Warlock from 2E Ravenloft is great. Bloodwild said. Interesting. I haven't seen that one. Druid Hag Coven says Alpha Games with Jason. Yep. He is definitely. Chuck knows him knows him well there. So, and then you have your expanding classes. Now, someone said the multi-classing is a little confusing in here. Stephen, anything you want to address that, or is it just like it's difficult to do? Or
I think it's one of those things. I frown on multi-classing so much at my table that I just don't like it. So I haven't diced into those. There's the multi-classing, and then there's class and a half. Class and a half allows you to, if I remember correctly, to pick one class, dominant class, and then one secondary class, and you merge the abilities, and Mark kind of designed that to help guide in that direction.
Okay.
The multi-classing, that I honestly can't remember how Mark broke that apart. I thought it ran pretty good, so I'd have to hear a specific comment. I do know that he went back and had to kind of, once he did that before the Player's Handbook before the Adventurer's Backpack was created.
Okay.
So he had to go back and kind of merge his original concepts with all the classes that came out of the Adventurer's Backpack and the other sources.
Search Timothy S. Brannan on Drive-Thru RPG, and I guarantee it'll come up if you want to find that witch. Because I think it was when I got it was $5. That was it on Drive-Thru RPG all those years ago. So if you play,
Cannibal, it's the best way to get rid of a character. Just have them swim a river.
Hey,
they're gonna miss their.
I survived that one time swimming across the river. So yes, I did. So yeah, swimming across the river is the deadliest thing there. And CNC humans can actually multi-class more easily than demi-humans due to the extra prime attribute. That's interesting, Rob. And Rob, being a aficionado of CNC, he would know that better than most anyone. Neat. There's a link. Thank you, Mitch. Zombie Mitch, great link. Thank you so very much for doing that. So, what the questions to the audience? Gotta have some questions. If you have questions, class-wise, or even OGL wise. Let me know. We don't want to go too crazy with it, but if you do have some questions, especially with having Steven on now, let's pick his brain now concerning stroller games, Castles and Crusades. Officially, 100% of your publications will be CNC, correct? No more
Yes,
5e.
we will begin.
Sure.
We will begin the purging immediately. The Kickstarter we got planned up next is Codex of Erd, and with that was going to come the Player's Guide to Erd. Next, there's Player's Guide to Erd, and all of that will be cleaned out. And going forward, we're pulling the OGL on everything. We're going to change a few names, a little key names. And there's a very little SRD in our game, but we're going to pull that out. That is, I've got 2 people already combing the material to make sure. Like I said, it's not much, but going forward, it'll be all Castles and Crusades. OGL dropped, and we're out of that.
Do you have?
Hey Jay, I got to step out for like 10 minutes. Is that all right?
Yeah, please do, because
we can.
do other stuff.
Back.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Yep.
Yeah, my son's fixing to head back to college. I'm gonna tell him goodbye.
Yeah, please, no problem, Stephen. We'll see you in a minute or two. All right. So I don't know. I got it set to the chromatic mage. As soon as Stephen comes back, we'll discuss that because I don't know about it. So,
but we have a question. When is our Altamira product coming out? So
as of Friday, we're setting a hard date for the Kickstarter to start. Okay.
Damn, I need to work hard then.
Probably sometime at the end of the summer, the Kickstarter will start. They have to get all the books done. They have to get all this redone first. Understand? I'd rather put out a great product than rush a half-assed product. So please note, it is in the works. All right, but that's the goal: is Labor Day, Kickstarter. Yeah. But we're going to have a big teaser event at GaryCon now that coming up, which we're really excited about. So, and I'm going to have classes in there. I already gave Steven the Bounty Hunter, and he loved it. So I converted. First time I've ever converted one of my classes to another system. I converted the Bounty Hunter to Castles and Crusades from 1E to 2E. I'll be doing that for the Shadow Mage. I'll be doing that for the Undead Hunter. I may do the Inquisitor too instead of the Necromancer because he already has one, but we'll see. We'll see what Steven wants. So it's going to be fun. So while let me think here. I don't have any of your updated stuff, Anna, but here is what I can do.
Okay.
Right, so let's do this. Go back to classes here. All right. And let me go here. Let's talk real quick once, since this is a discussion on classes here. Of course, now I can't find it. Give me 1 second here with sources. Okay. So we had a Gavin maybe 2.5 years ago. Inquisitor would be awesome. Yeah, cool. Rob, thanks, man. I am not one that I'm not going to hide that I've taken stuff. Barbarian Cleric. Tim beat me up for 20 years to get this thing in. Dragon Magazine 109. Just note, a lot of this stuff is available in the Dragons, and I'd be more than happy to share all those with you that I use. The Archer, Dragon 45. Okay? The Bandit. Now, some of these have some tweaks here and there that I tweaked for my game, but you can do the same thing. Dragon 63. The Cavalier, Unearthed Arcana and or Dragon 72. Okay? The Duelist, one of my favorites of all time, Dragon 73, the one right after Dragon 72. The Incantatrix, which is a Forgotten Realms one we barely use, but it's kind of got a little neat twist to it. That's Dragon 90. Roger Moore's Jester, Dragon 60. Very rarely used class, but if you want some comedy relief, there you go. Another NPC only class, the Sentinel. That's Dragon 89. Well, I don't want to give this list out because it's got all my secrets on it, but if you guys want, I will put together all the dragons, where they're from, where each class is. I can do that in a little compilation. I can put that out there. That's not a problem. Yeah. And the Witch, Dragon 114, plus the Timothy Brannan reference book that was linked in chat. So I can help you out. I can get you that. How come no one's Unearthed Arcana? No, it's not that you don't. I don't dislike Unearthed Arcana. Just the Cavalier in Unearthed Arcana is not the same Cavalier that was in our wonderful Dragon 72. This weapon specialization is different. It's much more limited in here. It doesn't account for variety of race and variety of, flavor. I love flavor, right, Anna? You gotta have flavor in your campaign.
Oh yeah.
If I want to specialize with a Becta Corbin over a broadsword, I should be allowed to do that. Well, the Unearthed Arcana version here does not allow you to do that, but the Dragon 72 version does. And so that's why I love that one over. And we used to have both, but we kind of eliminated the one here. It's still the Cavalier. It's still the same class. And Paladins, I'll give you another thing. Unearthed Arcana made the Paladin a subclass of Cavalier. We allow it to be the Paladin to be a subclass of Cavalier and still a subclass of Fighter. So we have two different types of Cavaliers. Two different types of Paladins. 90% of the Paladins that come up in our game now are Fighter subclass. People don't like playing the Cavalier version of a Paladin, and that's okay. So there you go. Cavaliers are cool. I love the Cavaliers, and we all saw them in the joust, right? Cavaliers have a distinct advantage in jousting, but yeah, it's something that you see certain classes have certain advantages on things. So Anna, when are you going to get to some class tweaking and adding here?
Well, for me, it's like I'm a little bit stuck in the rut, and that's what we could describe on my later coming blog post is that for me it's like picking the I was 1/3 through my conversion of level up the advanced 5e and using that, but now we'll see. It might be using that too. It depends on if they can get the OGL out of there and stuff, so I can use it in the future. But and to be honest, class is the concept that I loved the first 25 something 30 years that I played. Now I feel like I want the flexibility for players, and I want the story and the players' desire to rule what they want to guide the character to what they want to learn, so to speak, and acquire. So I want things that happen in the story to meaning things that you do during the adventures should make them, they fight a lot, that means that they get better at fighting, etc., and so on and so forth. So I want that. I want the story and the desire of the player, not what they come up with the first, meaning, okay, I'm going to play a wizard and then I'm stuck through the whole campaign just learning more and more magic. What if I want my character to be skulkier and sneak around more, or I want to learn skills to as a woodsman out in the forest or whatever it is? Then you should be able to pick that up, even if the class, I think, is a defining feature that comes from the wargaming days of D&D, so to speak. So and in the beginning, I think in the beginning game, I think it's great because it gives a good idea of what you can expect and what you can do, and it guides you to not screw up too bad, so to speak. So that's why I'm kind of, I can totally understand it. And for the most of my career, I would classes were key. Now I'm starting to think I've changed my mind the last 15 years, and I want to go with something that has toned down the classes. It's not that you can't play a class, but I want to have the features individual, so to speak. So you can I want to learn magic, and that means that you can learn less of something else. You have a certain capacity to acquire features, and that means that you do something, that means that you can't do the other stuff, so to speak. So that's the basic thing. And certain things cost a lot, meaning I want to be an arcane full caster. That means that you will probably then you have to sacrifice half of everything else or more, so to speak. But you have to cherry pick, and especially that you can tweak things instead of multi-classing. I want no classing, so to speak. So because multi-classing is complicated and it leads to a lot of balancing acts and whatever. So instead of trying to, like some rule systems, first you have classes, and then you do everything through archetypes and all sorts of stuff to kind of get away from the class concept, and that means that I simply say, okay, get rid of it. Just say, okay, to learn this is this difficult and require this, and then build from there. So you can pick and choose. But that has its own problems, so to speak. And it depends on the style of play. You want campaign easy to get into, fast to create characters, and for people that haven't played ages in your campaign, then classes is definitely the way to go. So I can totally understand why it's there, and it's benefit my game for most of my gaming career. But now I feel like for my type of campaign, I want to start abandoning classes and go for features, which is interesting because some games have it. Pathfinder 2 is a clear step away from classes in the way, and Cypher system, for instance, has abandoned them. True 20 is another classless. Some of them better, some of them worse, and they have other benefits and problems too, depending on. So it's all about your play style, what you want to emphasize in your games, and what you want to. Oh, cannot screw over. That's not really for me. So it's very much that what stories you want to tell, how you want to tell them, and for who. Yeah.
All right. So, go ahead, Steve.
Davis prefers classless systems. He
wow.
About every 2 or 3 years he says, "Well, can we revise CNC and drop the classes?" No, we can't. But
no,
maybe I should try and do it. Yep, do a very. But RuneQuest is another one that is classless, that has been around almost as long as D&D. So there are versions of it. So yep.
Couple quick questions here. So I have the Chromatic Image up. Can you explain this class a little bit? That was a question in chat.
So the Chromatic Mage, written by Jason Vey, I believe, I'm like 90, I know it was written for the Hallowed Oracle setting. So the Hallowed Oracle setting was created by, there's a whole series of books, the Abyss Walker books, that a good friend of mine published, and we did an RPG setting for it. We brought out setting, and the Chromatic Mage was one of those. And everything is based on color magic in this. Now, we kind of goofed up. In the player's archive, the Chromatic Mage is there. However, we didn't put the color wheel, the color spectrum in the book. I completely forgot. It's a 2-page spread of how all the colors work. And those actually you can download. If you go to our website, look for Hallowed Oracle, you should be able to download that for free. We need to get that in Bag of Holding. Chuck, if you're still out there, would you? I'm going to make a note to Chuck now.
Yeah, he's out. He's a
Bag of Holding. And if you happen to have the Adventure Spellbook, it's in there. We put it in there, but we're going to get it up on the Bag of Holding too, and that'll actually help explain the character class a lot. So that's one I just goofed up on.
Hey, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect here. So Tim Satley says, and that's Josh Pop's brother-in-law, actually, which is cool. Thanks for the link to the TPP license info. Any specific type of TPP content you would like to see for CNC?
Man, if you're writing some CNC stuff, I would love to see a bunch of entry-level adventures. We have so many people jumping on the CNC game in the last couple of years, and in the last 2 weeks since the OGL thing broke, it's been quite stunning. But we really have like 2 first-level adventures, and one, Jay, Anna, you guys would love this adventure. It's Shadows of the Halfling Hall. It was written by Mike Stewart. It reeks of AD&D. You know it.
I placed it in my game and ran it 2 years ago.
That's right.
I ran U1 and U2.
That's right. Shadows of the Halfling Hall is so advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but it is not an entry-level adventure. And then I wrote one, but it's so stunted, it doesn't get you much to it. So we need a bunch of, and just, 5, 6, 10, just first level adventures so people can just get started playing. Because I know most CKs, DMs, GMs, after 1 or 2 or 3 games, they're starting to do their own stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested, I would love to see more low level adventures popping in.
So just to show the level of cooperation here, let me go to this. Here is the Narwhal area map, and here is Narwhal. Here is Newbriar. That's U1, right? There's Newbriar. This is Lorraine, which is Orlane, which is I moved against Cold the Reptile God is there, N1, and this is Comray, which is from U2.
That's excellent.
Okay, right in my Greyhawk map.
Jay, you realize there you have Lorraine. Now you have to have a Cynthia place somewhere else.
That's That's funny. Good job.
And,
But-
and you have to make a dark symbol over them.
Oh, that was good. Look at that. Even Troy laughed. Oh my gosh. So just so I love both U1 and U2. Definitely
Yep.
ran both of them. And just to show everyone here, Altamira is going right here, in the world, and right, the Unkwood River right there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just north of that.
Yes, and then Dunulag will take over. Has very similarities to Laurel Mountains. Flip the map. Selene is north. Fontenote, which is the Elven kingdoms, and look at that, it's nice and open, so I can put all my Elven estates there if need be, or if allowed by. So we got a lot of open area here, and the Twilight Woods here fits the SUS perfectly. So we got a lot of fun areas coming up. Just to show you that area. Is Unkwood related to Unkelar, as Sure says?
So Unk in the dwarf. So I guess very few people know this. I'm creating a dwarven language. I've got about 30 something pages of dictionary of just words. And Unk is in the dwarven language. Unk is dark. So Unklar, dark horned, I believe the horned god, and then Unk dark is the dark wood, or the dark, or what was that? The river, I think it was. Cool. No, it's a forest in the Twilight Wood, the Unkwood. So it's a very, very dark and dismal part of the Twilight Wood.
Excellent. Another question came up about 5th edition likes to start characters at 3rd. Your old school Cast of Crusades, you want to start them at 1st still, right? Correct?
Do I?
5th edition, people start characters at 3rd level for some reason.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't do
And they want to skip the first tier. It's kind of boring. So I guess.
That's right.
But,
and I'm the opposite.
Me too. I love first level adventure.
Well, because most rule systems have a sweet spot, and especially when you come over it, so to speak. Most game systems have a tendency of getting overcomplicated and things take too long. So for different system, that can be 10th level, 15 or whatever, but there is usually a sweet spot. And to me is like, that's why I want to start at 0 level, because I want to prolong the sweet spot, so you really know your character and have more backstory when you reach the sweet spot, which is usually like and in 5th edition, I think it's around 3rd level, because that's when you powerful enough you can take on the world a bit. So have a little more prep and gameplay and know your character and the backstory when you reach it. That means that you can have more fun during that sweet spot from like 3rd level to 7th or 8th or something, when things have a tendency of stalling and getting overcomplicated and stuff like that. So I think and also when you tweak a game, think about tweaking it so you can prolong the sweet spot, so to speak. That's the other thing I think that is key, because if you can make the sweet spot go higher up, so to speak, then you really accomplish something. So that I think is important.
Traveler character generation.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. Yep, my arm, or I'm dead.
Oh my.
Yep.
I love that.
Oh my gosh.
That was kind of awesome.
Yeah. What a great thing. So great questions, everyone.
Chuck said someone asked any new or additional Haunted Highlands adventures or support. Yes. Well, Casey and I talk about it all the time. And we had a really aggressive year laid out for 2023 and into 2024, and it involved Haunted Highlands, Altamira, involved all kinds of stuff. Most of that will stay intact, but this OGL shenanigans will cause a little bit of a ripple in the stream of things. So Haunted Highlands might get pushed back. The nice thing about Haunted Highlands, it's really all done. It needs cleaned up, new art, new maps in it. And Casey, I know he's written 2 or 3 little adventures for it, so we could roll those in. It's just when we fit it in the schedule is the issue. And now that we've got to do a 10th printing of the player's handbook, that's going to cause just a ripple. We'll call it a ripple. Or a wave, as Chuck said.
Something. Oh, man. Yeah.
It's a challenge. That's what we like to call it.
But it's a good challenge, because once it's done, and then you're gold then, and you're not going to have to worry about anything in the future. So that
ever again. No, you're right. It's best. I even thought a couple of years ago, I remember, I can't remember which printing, probably the 7th, because we had that beautiful cover, and I thought, I need to just weed the OGL out now. I need to just get rid of this and move on without it. But I didn't. It didn't seem any reason for it. Well, now we've got a reason to do it, so the time is now. It'll be. You're right. you're spot on. It'll be good in the future.
So one last
Yep.
question from me to you on that OGL. What about the cabal of all the other producers that are are forming together? You gonna stay out of that, or are you gonna just support them from afar, or?
We will do anything. Most of those guys are my friends. I've known them for decades, and anything they need from Troller Games is theirs. All they have to do is give me a shout. I've been talking to a few of them pretty continually. We haven't dove into it full on. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a game that uses the SRD. Many of them use the SRD to support someone else's game. So we're in a slightly different position than they are, but anything that Troll Lord can offer the folks at Paizo and Green Ronin and Goodman, everybody else is tied up into that Frog God. We will more than happily do so. And if they need me to officially jump in, I'll happily jump in.
Okay.
Whatever they want.
Yep. That's
Fantastic.
awesome. Yep.
And I do wish them luck with it. I know it's going to be very difficult to manage. It's a lot of content.
Yep.
My understanding is they're going to set up a nonprofit, which is great. It's going to be a hard road, but that's good. It's a good thing.
It's good.
Clearly, Wizards is not going to be a good steward of what.
Exactly. So a nonprofit that is not tied to a specific any publisher is probably a good thing because they could be a neutral harbor, safe harbor for something like that. So
yeah, it's one of those things, and I'm not. I don't hold any bitterness against Hasbro and whatnot. Hasbro's got shareholders and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah,
they got to take care of. They got a business to run. Sales were down. They got to do something. So I get it from that perspective. But you never know if Trollord sets X, Y, and Z up. I could die, and some hedge fund owns this little company, and you don't know. So the idea is to set it up so that people are protected.
And that sounds like a good plan, so to speak, and a good So this sounds really well thought out. So we can just hope that.
And I will say this for our third-party publishers, and we're letting everybody know. I'm going to update that license on there because we want to add some language in there that protects you in perpetuity. So there's no questions down the line.
It's irrevocable.
It's irrevocable. Yes, I'm told that's the word we need to put in there.
Yes, we've heard discussions about that word. So instruct your lawyer to add, or to look at that part too. Yeah.
I thought perpetual covered that.
Exactly. Everybody thought that, but apparently the language have changed, or legalese have changed, or something like that. So, or something. We'll see. Yeah, I guess it is to be tested in court, but that sounds great, Stephen. Yeah,
it's been such a great discussion tonight. Really, been
fantastic. Can I answer Sogtop's question here? And it's just that he says, is it Wizards of the Coast or is it a Hasbro decision? My guess is, and this is just my guess, I'm certainly not on the inside of that conversation, is that people at Hasbro saw that very sharp decline in sales that Wizards of the Coast occurred, and said, you need to get your numbers up, and this was the plan that Wizards of the Coast came up with. It's not the plan that I would have come up with. I would have done something a little bit differently, but it's what they came up with, and Godspeed, because they got Dungeons and Dragons, and I love Castles and Crusades, I love Troller Games and all this stuff, but Dungeons and Dragons is a part of the culture at this point. So I hate to see it get roughed up like it's getting roughed up.
Yeah, that's where we came from. So we kind of that's like our hometown in a way. We don't want to see it. Yeah.
Some of us though are frozen in time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You stayed there. So yeah.
But that's not true. I pulled feats out of 3rd edition and put them in the second. So if there's a good idea, I'll use it. Yeah.
Jay, I'll say you might be frozen in time, but you're frozen in time with the best version of D&D there has ever been.
Good to hear. And on that note, please ask Stephen. Oh man, so our spell jamming. I'll take that question, Big Mac. Any space things coming? Anything in that realm?
So Jason wrote. We did Star Siege years and years ago. It wasn't quite compatible with the Siege engine, so Jason Bay went in and he rewrote it and made it all compatible. It was all great. It's been on the docket to be released for over a year now. It was attached to the Star Siege, and I just kept pumping it down the line because other things got in the way. Well, now that the OGL is in the way, we got to remove the OGL from Star Siege as well. That's going back to Jason's desk.
And then add some more time to it. So
that's a lot of work.
Soon.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Soon is realistic. Someday. Wow.
Yeah.
Good question. So let's do some quickie shout outs, get the giveaways going, and then raid into Darling tonight, and have some fun here. What an unbelievable audience number. We're currently the most popular D&D stream going on right now. Thank you all on a Sunday night. Really appreciate it. And Stephen, thank you for coming on and hanging with us and answering some great questions and, picking some, getting a gathering of the minds here on how to help your own campaign. Always in all these discussions, Adam and I do, we always think about how you can better your own campaign, with your own ideas, because like I said, you don't have to do word for word what any book says, but you want to do. You go ahead, Stephen. You gonna say something?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. It's written. It should be a guideline. Didn't it say that somewhere in the DM's guide, AD&D version? It should be a guideline.
Yeah, I actually said that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I don't know what's going on. You guys think going?
Yeah, I just rendered 3,600 square miles of Southern Shield Land. So that's for my own Shield Lands campaign. So I have 1/3 of the country at 5 feet per pixel. So now I need to edit that. That will just be a little side thing. I just rendered. So when I have a little bit time over, I can step into that, because this week I have some little project for my top patrons, and then of course I have a heck of a lot of Altamira stuff to do. So to start sprucing up the textures up. So if you have some really cool stuff to show at GaryCon in what is it, 6 weeks, something like that?
No, more than that.
Okay, good.
The fundraiser is 5 weeks, 4.5.
Oh, there's a 5 weeks fundraiser. Thank you. Yeah, so it's thank you. That gave me a little bit of So we got some more time for that. But those are the big take. I'm still trying to get my Forundi map, but I realized there's a couple of pieces I've missed, so I need to update my Forundi map, because I had some notes and ideas on things. So, but it's coming on that one, and I'm writing a big blog post about my. How it affects my business and me as a creator, all this turmoil, and also some of the good things, and also picking a new rule system as a creator, as someone who wants to do third-party content and dabble in stuff like that. So and my take on a rule system, and I can say, and it's not only because I'm on the show, Castle and Crusade is one of the top contenders for being my future rule system. So for various cool reasons, so to speak. So I have probably 4 top contenders that I think, and also I want people to tell me other rule systems and other ideas and so on, because to widen my thinking a bit. So and I want to tell the key features I want out of a rule system for my game, and then choose from there. So
awesome. So, Stephen, what's coming up shortly?
So we just released the 9th printing of the Player's Handbook. The 8th printing sold out with all of this OG illness, and then the 9th is out. We're going to be working on a Codex of Erd Kickstarter, which is our World of Erd. And Anna, I'm going to shoot you an email probably tomorrow.
Awesome.
Talk to you about that. So we can get that kind of started. So we've got that coming down in the Adventurers Army. And I'm going to make a weird pitch for everyone out there. If you're not familiar with Castles and Crusades, please go to our website. You can find the book. You can download it for free, Monsters and Treasure 2, and get started immediately. But we released a new line last week, and it's the official Castles and Crusades coffee.
Yes.
We have the Adventurers Group. It is roasted here in Arkansas. I'm not a coffee guy. I don't drink coffee, but everyone around here that has had it loves it, says it's delicious. My wife made the flavor, whatever. I don't know anything about coffee culture, so I'm sure I'm butchering all of it.
Yeah, like cheese, honey, and what else you're franchising in? It's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, she said it's a Sumatra something blend. You'd have to go to the website.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's all the way from Indonesia.
That's cool. Yep.
Yeah.
So go check that out. I'm very excited about the coffee. For some reason, I don't know why. But
I imagine in the future that Mike, they'll have a coffee giveaway. Yep. So.
Yes.
No, TLG coffee does not contain a kumquat flavor yet there, Big Mac. We're going to work on that.
It doesn't. But we need to get some kumquat candies. That's what we need to do.
It's coming. See, that's franchising out into all sorts of wonderful things. Yes. Instead of a Tim Horton, we're going to have kumquat heaven all over the U.S. You never know. So Dr. Pepper flavored kumquat stuff too. That would be good too.
Dr. Pepper only comes in a can in one flavor.
Awesome. All right. So this week seemed like I only had 3 streams this week, but with all the craziness going on, I got 5. I'm streaming from Wednesday through Sunday this upcoming week. Fortunately, I'm not going to be. My wife's not going to throw me out of the house because I've already pre-approved all this.
Yep.
Wednesday night, we go back to the My Greyhawk. We pick someone who's a big name in the community, and they're going to talk about their Greyhawk campaign. So we're going to hear from Asher the Bear, Dale, and his brother on the Highlander campaign, which is in the North Province, which I can't. There he is. There's Dale. I can't wait to hear about it. I really can't. So we get Rich Longitalos, and that's what we're going to have on Wednesday night. That's Wednesday at 8. Thursday night, start a new adventure. I'm running part 3 of Age of Worms by Sean Reynolds. Encounter at Blackwall Keep. Outside of Greyhawk City, north of the Mist March, the group Iron Fury is going to be going to Blackwall Keep, and we go from there. And that'll be at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Adventure 986. I'm getting beaten up too, Steven. My guys are like, "What the hell are you going to do for 1,000? 1,000's coming this year. Our 1,000th adventure in the campaign's coming. I got to figure this out.
You got to do something for it.
I got to do something for number 1,000. You know. So
that's insane. That is really cool.
Yeah, it's coming. So. But this will be 2 to 3 weeks on this one. So that'll be a fun one.
Maybe they need to rescue the kumquat tree from the troll lord. How's it?
Yes, exactly. We need to rescue. That exactly. Yep.
This is out of order. All right. This is out of order. That's okay.
Well, go with that.
Yeah. Well, here, wait. There we go. Friday night. Fantasy Mapping Show once a month. Anna, Alyssa Faden, and myself. Projects 2023 Deep Dive.
This is a work. We're not to be decided. The topic might change. We'll see. But that's the working topic we have, so to speak, because we're starting to. So we're going to do some deep dives into what projects, and then will be more from the technical side than we normally do here. So there will be some talk about masks, resolutions, and God knows what from my part. So
I'm not running Castle Greyhawk Saga. No, not that goofy Castle Greyhawk. I ran Expeditions Ruins of Greyhawk. It was fantastic, but I could never run Castle Greyhawk. Can't do it. I'd have to poke my eyes out. It's so bad. All right. I'm out of order again. No! Saturday morning, off the D&D, the Praetors Rejects players. I'm doing a BattleTech for Beginners games. We already had our session 0. I did it off camera, off stream, and that'll be Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I'll put them through the ringer of a first ever game on Solaris 7, 4 characters. We'll have some fun with that. And that'll be at 9 o'clock in the morning this Saturday coming up. So that'll be stream 4. And stream 5, this is time permitting because I am not missing the Eagles playoff game. Sorry. We'll see when this is. Legendary Games, Jason Nelson.
You got him.
Yes. So
awesome.
here's the story, Stephen. You're going to love this. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a thing called the Great Net Spellbook. If you remember this, for all these spells. That. I went through almost every spell. Now, there were some really crazy spells in there. But this character named Alpha, this wizard, kept on reappearing. And we started using like all these quasi-elementalist spells, all these great spells. I haven't gone through the count yet. And there was this email address attached to it. And Anna figured out it's Jason Nelson from a Legendary Game. She thought it was him. So I contacted him, and he goes, "This is amazing. No one's ever said anything to me about these. I can't believe it. I'd love to come on your show and talk about it." Plus, I said, "Hey, we'll talk about your community as well, and we'll talk about the Great Net Spellbook." We never talked about that. So
Jason is a great guy. So he's a great guy. I met him several times.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He was the one who created all these spells that are in Great Net Spellbook. Did not know that, and can't wait to have a little chat with him. Now, like I said, the date and time subject to change. We'll see. It may not be the exact same time as every week. I will let you know ahead of time. That's stream 5 for next week. Lastly.
How many spells was in that thing? I remember that.
Thousands.
There was thousands. It was people.
There's other ones too. There's the Great Net Wild Book for Wild Magic.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of other ones too. So
early days, that was before TSR started suing everyone. So people just piled up everything, and then then they started suing everybody because they didn't want to see any D&D material on there. And this is for people that started playing now. This is long before there was an OGL or anything established, and the internet was Wild West, and it was crazy times in many ways.
Somehow we had a printed copy of that. I'm guessing Mac printed it off internet and put it in a binder.
Yeah, like
I think it's some iterations you can download a Word document or something like that, and then it was a website. It was all sorts of. It was the Wild West, and no one knew. There were no.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy times.
GeoCities, you're right.
The Wild West.
There are netbooks of all sorts. There's a netbook of carnal knowledge out there. There's all sorts of crazy stuff out there.
There was the Wild Web, so to speak.
Right
the Wild Web in
before
the
third
early
edition
days.
came out. It was at the end of the second edition era when TSR was falling apart.
Yep. From the mid 90s to about 2000. So
I'm
that
really
was
reminiscing here.
Yeah.
But
when the web was so so young, so you had psychedelic web pages and all the stuff like that. So
But to find out who Alpha actually is now is going to be awesome. I can't wait to talk to him about these spells he created. There's a lot of them. All right. Well, so the next special D&D game I'm DMing 2 Saturdays, 28 6 p.m. The Slav Squad gets back. Special guest Heather Hex. We're gonna have an elven-based adventure in Selene with a group because there's a whole bunch of half elves in the group. Ancient Evils is the name of it. It'll be a fun one. That'll be Saturday the 28th, 6 p.m. And then lastly, here we go. All right. So we have every time slot filled from all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. The only time slots I don't have filled is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. each late night. That's it. Everything's filled. Starting with Phoenix Iwaki at 8 o'clock on Friday morning, all the way through all day Saturday, all day Sunday. These are all the streamers and Greyhawk Reborn participating. I will have one of these out for all the sponsors. So right now I have Larry Elmore's sponsor, Reaper Miniatures, Troller Games, Gamescape 3D, Infinite Dimensions Games, Stratagem Wiz Dice. I must be forgetting someone. Oh, Cave Geek Art. I mean, and possibly a couple others as well are going to be jumping in here too. Looking forward to this. Steven's playing 2 to 6. This is Eastern time because it's in my head there, Steven. 2-6 Friday. Steven's DMing. Eric Mengi is playing in that game. I know for a fact he's already committed to that, which is really cool. And Steven's playing in my game on 6 o'clock Saturday night with Luke Gygax, Ed Greenwood, Eric Mona, Darling, and Bones. My gosh, what a group that's going to be! Puppets on steroids or whatever I call it. But and we'll have a wrap up show too. A goal is $20,540 to surpass.
We can do it. We can do
it. And that's what's going on. Let me do the 7 giveaways real quick, and then we'll rate into Darling, and we'll call it a night. Steven, thank you so very much. What a wonderful show. It was a blast. Here we go. I'm going to close it out. Last call. I'll give you 10 seconds. Exclamation drawing if you have not signed up. Bum, 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 bum. All right. Let me close this out. Thanks. Thank you. We're trying to keep it rolling here. We're trying to keep it cranking. Thank you. Here we go. First 2 winners get a 25. The next 5 get a 10. Okay? First 2 get a 25. Remember this. I take it down in the system. I'm not streaming again until Wednesday. Don't worry. I'll have it. Chuck's giving me the codes tomorrow morning. So just note, I will get them to you tomorrow. I'm off for MLK Day for my company tomorrow. Thank you. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks.
First winner, Bane TBC. That's a new name. You just have to be on the claim and say here, okay? And I'll go through. Or if you're in chat, that's good enough for me. Bane, I see you in chat.
He's here. Yep.
Bane TBC. You got
he looked
25.
very excited with that green little cool
awesome. You got a 25. You can whisper. You can whisper me and say hi, and I'll bring it back to you in Twitch. Or if you want to give me a Discord connector, we can do that as well. One of the two. Mac, Big Mac.
Oh, awesome!
There you go, Mac.
Congratulations,
Grats.
David. Yeah.
Yeah. Grats. All right. The next 5 are $10 digital gift certificates. Okay. Goblin Man. Grats, Goblin Man. She has a stream. She does some crafting.
Oh, Goblin Man. What kind of cool nicks you all have? You nicknames. It's awesome. Yeah.
Grats. Next winner. Began. Grats. I've seen Began on. Yep. Began 1. Grats. Okay. You got it. Next winner. Moose. Grats, Moose. Moose 2271. 2 more. And please stay on. We're going to rate into Darling. Say hi. See what she's all about there. She plays a lot. She's DMing. Her channel's DMing for the fundraiser as well. So please hang out. All right. Next one, Caesar. Congrats, Caesar. And lastly, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. That's a minor illusion.
Oh.
42.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congrats. So we got a couple new names in there. That's great to see.
Yep.
Steven, thanks for coming on for a wonderful discussion tonight.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast, and thanks for everybody for coming out and all the questions and whatnot. If you have any questions for Troller Games and the incoming OGL, please give us a shout anywhere. We'll pick up the message.
Yes, and like I said, have me come on anytime on any of your Tuesdays or Thursdays. I can make it work. Don't you know?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And if you could sit tight for a minute here, do the raid, and I usually want to do a quick talk to me about something, and then we'll get you out of here. See you all Wednesday night. I got 2 nights off.
Yep. See ya.
It's not like they're off. I actually have an interview. I have an interview with Hownet the DM tomorrow night. I'm doing this podcast.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, I'm gonna
Awesome.
I'm gonna go on there and yeah. So that'll be I think that's tomorrow night. It's not live. It's you know. All right, set up the raid in the Darling here. I'd love to go in with over 150. That would be awesome. That would be fantastic. Hit the raid button, dummy. Awesome. Here we go.
It's clapping quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, we're over 100.
Oh, wow.
We're over 125. Over 130. I'll take that's a
131.
130.
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a good night. See you in a couple days. Wow, that's a monster.
Yeah, 131. That's
131
a great
raid. That's like.
Yep.
That's awesome. Right,
It went through. Yep.
Yeah, it went through. Let me close that out. Close that out.
It's boosted to 156.
Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
Let me turn this off here. Make sure the stream's